But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
Self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are the things we're not allowed to talk about? You know what they are. You know exactly what they are. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. As usual, right, we do this live to include you because, of course, it doesn't matter what I think in the end. It only matters what you think. It is your reality after all. And so if you want to be part of the discussion tonight, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. We are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter. And, of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. So a few things going on. We're watching the chat in all those places. I'm watching the chat in all those places, trying to actually keep up with all your amazing thoughts, which most times are actually pretty amazing. We got a lot of amazing people that contribute to this show and are really just a whole heck of a lot smarter than me, and that's a very good thing because you get good people together, you get smart people together, and amazing things start to happen, don't they? And this is part of it. This is one of those weird ones that I've been saying this recently, and I'm completely truthful here, and I'm not saying I'm not truthful about anything else, but this one really strikes home because I think this show becomes again greater than the sum of its parts, right? Meaning that all the great people call in and there's just me and little old me, but suddenly I'm me, you're you, together we're us, and it becomes something very, 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 very interesting. So I appreciate all the fine folks who call in and contribute to these conversations, and all the folks in the chat out there. So I am watching you guys, and I know you're out there. I see the lurkers, I see everybody. I see it all. I'm like the Eye of Sauron. So that's what's going on. We're just doing the thing today, and we're going to be talking about UFOs. Yeah, I mean, some of the criticism I get for doing this show, by the way, you got the alien logo and everything, but I get some people leave some comments and like, man, this guy talks about everything except UFOs. They're all frustrated. Well, okay, we're going to talk about UFOs tonight because why not, right? Why not? There's a new information just came out that is pretty interesting regarding UFOs. So we'll get to that, a FOIA release, and I'm not sure what to think of it. It seems that if this is really what's coming out of the government, then there's going to be something here. So maybe something to this, maybe not. But of course, again, 702-957-1037. Love to hear your thoughts on, first, just a few questions before we get going. And also, by the way, we are again, streaming in those places, YouTube, Rockfin, D-Live, and Twitter, and of course, broadcasting live on the Fringe FM, like I said. And so please join the Discord. You can go to troubledminds.org, click the Discord link, or you can also go to fringe.fm/chat. That will give you a direct invite to the Discord over on Fringe. I'm watching all of them and trying to keep up with all of your great thoughts. So there we go. All right. I think that sums it up. So here's the thing. Look, interestingly, a couple questions actually before we start. So the questions tonight are this. This is where we begin. What do you believe about UFOs? What do you believe? Do you believe that it is some sort of military propaganda thing that's happening, where they try and say that like it's all a bunch of hogwash, meaning that this alien abduction stuff is just not real at all, and it's people making things up, or maybe they're delusional, or again psychotic, or who knows? Maybe it's all in people's head. There's the first one. There's the first question. What do you think about UFOs, and is there any amount of real to this, including maybe aliens, or maybe not aliens, or somewhere in between, propaganda or otherwise? So that's the first question. Just what do you think about UFOs in general? Number two, what about the idea that UFOs seem to cause these stories of missing time? And like I said, it's really difficult for me when we talk about this stuff just to know what's what. I think that as far as propaganda goes, UFO propaganda is probably hot and heavy, with just a bunch of stuff where everybody's always trying to politicize it a little bit. They're talking about doing actual congressional hearings regarding UFOs recently. There's a whole lot of stuff going on with this, and it's what would you say? It's sometimes frustrating. I think that's probably the best way to put it. But that's the first question. UFOs, real? Nah, somewhere in between. What do you think about it? What do you think about the idea of missing time? And there are stories where people suggest that they did have missing time regarding UFOs. They came into close contact, and they ended up missing hours and or minutes. Let's say 20 minutes, 30 minutes type stuff, and some other interesting stuff. And I don't know exactly how much of this stuff is real and how much of it is just straight made up, right? And I think that's part of the frustrating thing of this, is that you kind of want to expect at least a little bit that the things that you hear about are some semblance of real, right? But you just can't tell anymore. You just cannot tell, and it is what would you call frustrating? Frustrating is for sure. So okay, so we've got new information, and the new information actually comes in a data dump, a FOIA release, which just hit yesterday, by the way. And if Algo Rhythm is out there, shout out to Algo, because he's the one who actually linked this article in the chat. He linked the Sun actually, which is we'll get to that article in a sec. But everybody's reporting on this, and this is brand new. This is from a day ago, and let's look at this. This is from livescience.com, and wouldn't you know it, UFOs left radiation burns and unaccounted for pregnancies. New Pentagon report claims. There you go. How about that? 1,500 pages of UFO-related research were just declassified as part of a FOIA request. Okay, so here we go. Straight from the article, straight from livescience.com. Encounters with UFOs have reportedly left Americans suffering from radiation burns, brain and nervous system damage, and even unaccounted for pregnancy, according to a massive database of U.S. government reports recently made public through a Freedom of Information Act request. The database of documents includes more than 1,500 pages of UFO-related material from the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, as you guys probably know, a secretive U.S. Department of Defense program that ran from 2007 to 2012. Despite never being classified as secret or top secret, the ATIP only became known to the public in 2017 when former director Luis Elizondo resigned from the Pentagon and released several now infamous videos of an unidentified aircraft moving in seemingly impossible ways to the media. Shortly after the ATIP's existence was revealed, the U.S. outpost of the British tabloid The Sun filed a FOIA request for any and all documents related to the program. 4 years later, on April 5th, 2022, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, honored the request by releasing more than 1,574 pages of material to the Sun. Can you believe that? To a tabloid. Interesting. So here we go. According to the Sun, the cache of documents includes reports on the biological effects of UFO sightings on humans, studies on advanced technologies such as invisibility cloaks, and plans for deep space exploration and colonization. Some portions of the documents were withheld in part for privacy and confidentiality concerns, ATIP told The Sun. One standout document from the collection is a report titled Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human and Biological Tissues, dated March 2010. The report describes alleged injuries to human observers by anomalous advanced aerospace systems, some of which may be a threat to United States interests, according to the document. We'll get back to this in a sec. And the document itself is fascinating, and I'm going to link this in the chat. As always, you can find my sources down below on the podcast feed, also on YouTube. But check this out. This is pretty wild. This is brand new. This just hit, and there's your actual document, the actual government document, and there's some pretty wild stuff in here. I couldn't believe it. I was reading through it, and I was like, what? Like, is this stuff for real? Like are we just like beyond the point of just trolling ourselves here? Because this seems pretty wild to me. That again, so I said lost time. They talk about lost time in here, and we've never really talked about that in terms of UFOs, sort of just in the periphery. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of maybe explore the idea of lost time regarding close contact to UFOs. So the first couple questions, again, what do you believe, sort of in the generic sense, about UFOs? Real or nah, or somewhere in between? What level of propaganda do you think is based on these UFO studies and whatnot? And do you think it is there's some reality to this? That's the first question. The second question is, what about the idea of missing time? There's been some accounts, again, I dug out some, and we can talk about some of that stuff as we go. But why do you think people describe a UFO encounter, like a close UFO encounter, as sometimes, many times even, including that missing time element, and that they lost minutes or they lost hours, and which again goes back to that sort of that Betty and Barney Hill, the one of the most famous, and I'm not sure you could even say credible anymore, because I don't know what to believe these days, but let's say one of the most famous or infamous UFO abduction scenarios and cases is Betty and Barney Hill. And so in that sense, well, they did have missing time, and there's a lot to this. So I don't know, so what do you believe? Why do you think missing time is a thing, and what's really going on with this? Is it something to do with the advanced propulsion? Is it again, like they're bending time space and kind of causing this missing time element, or again, do you think it's just all a bunch of BS? Because I'm with you in some of those cases where it's just difficult to tell what's real anymore, as we live in this post-truth world of hyper-reality. So I don't know. I think this is pretty interesting. I do have this particular document. I haven't found all of them yet. So they say they released 1,500 pages, but I haven't found like a list of these. So if anybody actually can find a list and let me know, I'll spend some time going through this next week and maybe find some amazing stuff that they kind of reported regarding UFOs. But pretty nutty stuff here. So here's this again. So back to this. This is the actual document, the one that kind of raises your eyebrow the most, and it's called Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human Biological Tissues. And like reading through this, and kind of makes my eyes pop out of my head. Like, what is this? Is this real? Maybe this is real. So here we go. This is straight from the document itself. I'll read some of this from the document. Not too much. I don't want to bore you guys, make your eyes glaze over. But I'll read some of it from the actual government document release here. Like I said, I did link it in the chat if you want to check it out yourselves and read it yourselves. I do suggest you do that, because if you take information from me or anybody else about a particular thing, you should probably go read the particular thing yourself, just to make sure I haven't misrepresented it, somebody else hasn't misrepresented it, or even made some mistakes or left out some critical details, because I'm human after all. I'm not trying to misrepresent anything. I'm just going to do my best here. But I think there's too much. There's just 38 pages, which is a lot, because they're talking about some pretty wild stuff. But if they have 1,500 pages, I'd like to see the other, 1,450 pages or whatever. So I'd love to see that. I don't know if you guys know where to find that. Let me know, and I'll take a look at it. Look at this, straight from the document. This is pretty crazy. It says, the evidence discussed, this is from, the anomalous acute and subacute field effects on human biological tissues. This is unclassified now, anyway. And here we go, straight from the document. The evidence discussed includes scientific material that has been peer-reviewed, contained in recently declassified government documents, and early emergent clinical medical analyses also underway in companion research studies. Based on historical cases, humans have been found to have been injured from exposures to anomalous vehicles, especially airborne, and when in relatively close proximity. The primary mechanisms of injury are related to electromagnetic radiation field effects, or EMR field effects. The biophysical characteristics of the injuries are well understood. The energy-related propulsion systems are not well understood. The potential deployment of systems is thus important to understand. The document here continues. This is on page 5 of this government document released through FOIA to the Sun, apparently. And again, the name is Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human Biological Tissues. So it continues here. Amongst the most important pathophysiological effects are heating and burn injuries, including ionizing and non-ionizing and thermally induced. The neurological effects that they list here are cognitive, central nervous system, neuromuscular, central and autonomic nervous systems, sensory, peripheral nervous system, and neuropsychiatric and neuroendocrine. The auditory cranial nerves 7 and 8, they say, communication and disabling effects, and noise, and central neurocognitive. And it says analysis of clinical diagnostic codes together with environmental conditions observed during anomalous events are clustered in meaningful ways. So that's how this begins, right? And that's kind of eye-popping to begin with. And it's like, wait a minute. So we really have these situations where the government is saying that we have close contact with UFOs or something to that effect. And in these cases now, we're talking about actual physical damage being done to people by being in close proximity. So I don't know. Like once again, I don't know what to believe regarding this. It was released to the Sun of all. I mean, probably to get worse than the Sun tabloid wise, you got to go to the National Enquirer or something, right? So I don't know. Like this to me, I'm a little split on this. In that, is this misrepresenting something? Is this what is this? What does this mean? Do you guys think this is actually real? I guess we can add that to the list of questions tonight. And what the hell's going on now? Like we're releasing this information and. For I don't know for what. It's so wild to me that suddenly we're like, okay, well, here's the information about the UFOs and burning people and causing brain damage and neurological effects and actual radiation burns and stuff like this. I don't know. I don't know what to think. So what do you think regarding this? I'll go through some more of this document. And there's some, there's some hot takes on Twitter, of course. Every time something comes out in the UFO world, of course, the UFO Twitter has to freak out and start fighting with each other, which is pretty funny. I mean, funny, not funny, but it is what it is. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. It's flinging digital poo at each other. That's what Twitter users usually do. So anyway, that's what's on my mind tonight. That's how we begin. What about this idea of missing time as well? In some of these instances in this FOIA release, they do talk about missing time. So what causes this? And is this real at all? Or is this just, again, sort of like we talked about last night, a figment of our imagination? I don't know. You tell me. Love to hear your thoughts. One more time, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link and we'll put you on the show. Let's go back to this original article, livescience.com. Now, this continues. Let's see. Shortly after ATIP's existence was revealed. I got that. Okay, so here we go. One standout document is a collection of a report titled Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human Biological Tissues, dated March 2010, which we just read part of. The report describes alleged injuries to human observers by anomalous advanced aerospace systems, some of which may be a threat to United States interests, according to the document. The report describes 42 cases from medical files and 300 unpublished cases where humans sustained injuries after alleged encounters with anomalous vehicles, which includes UFOs. In some cases, humans showed burn injuries or other conditions related to electromagnetic radiation, the report said. Some of them appearing to have been inflicted by energy-related propulsion systems. The report also noted cases of brain damage, nerve damage, heart palpitations, and headaches related to anomalous vehicle encounters. It is unclear what kind of vetting process, if any, the ATIP used to investigate these alleged cases. The Sun has yet to share the full contents of the requested reports. There it is. I was looking for that because I did not find the other 1,500 pages. So I was curious why this one document was available, but the rest was not yet. So that's why the Sun hasn't actually released it. Interesting. Okay, so the report also includes a list of alleged biological effects of UFO sightings on human observers between 1873 and 1994. Okay, all right. Compiled by the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. Also, let's add that to the list. What do you guys know about MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network? Do you trust that organization to sort of bring about disclosure, or what do you think they're up to? That's another thing we can add to this discussion tonight. What do you think about MUFON? So we got MUFON, of course, is a civilian nonprofit group that studies reported UFO sightings. The reported effects of UFO encounters include unaccounted for pregnancy, which that one's super wild, right? That would mean hybrids, maybe alien hybrids or something, exactly like they describe in some of these super crazy where they take people, they say, and then they implant some kind of hybrid baby inside of them. I mean, that's a wild claim right there. Unaccounted for pregnancy, apparent abduction, paralysis, and experiences of perceived telepathy, teleportation, and levitation. All right. That's a mouthful. That's a lot. So we'll get into that document. We'll dig into this. But so what do you guys believe? Is this just another round of BS propaganda that we're expected to kind of bite and just swallow hook, line, and sinker? Or is this real? Is this real? And I think that's the most terrifying part about some of these conversations is the old, well, if this is real, then things certainly change, don't they? I think the world changes, and that's why this is sort of a fascinating conversation, in my opinion. But as always, right? It doesn't matter what I think; it only matters what you think. What's going on, Jeff over there on 416 Cubes? How you doing over on Rockfin? I see you guys reading the chat everywhere. Thanks for being part of this and hanging out and having a good time as we talk about all this crazy stuff. So that's what's on my mind tonight. So we have this government FOIA release, all right, given to the Sun, a tabloid. The Sun, of course, is one of the most, let's say, scummy tabloids out there, all right? That's probably a good way to put it. So do you think they've doctored it? Do you think they've actually maybe manipulated some of this data somehow? I don't know. I think that's one of the questions here that we could probably look at, and as we consider this. How much of this do you believe? Do you believe that there are actual UFO incidents where people get burned, or even, bam, you're preggers, like stuff like that? Do you think that's actually a thing? Or do you think this is just, a bunch of hogwash? So I'd love to hear your thoughts there. But then also adding to this, what about the idea of missing time? Because, of course, lots of these UFO experiencers or abduction events do detail the idea of missing time. So what does that mean? Is it, again, some sort of, Doc Brown space-time continuum thing being bent or warped, or is it anything different than that? Do you think it's just maybe a broken memory as part of the abduction? Maybe the men in black flash you in the eyes, and there's your lost time right there? I don't know. I have no idea. You tell me, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're hanging out. And what's up, Rob in the chat says, why does the government release this stuff? Because they have to under the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. So they're fighting tooth and nail, by the way, to not release this stuff. I think that's the interesting part here. And John Greenwald Jr. has said for a long time of the Black Vault fame that certainly there's a UFO cover-up. He's convinced, because it's very difficult to get information out of the government in the form of real UFO documents. So anyway, that's what's on my mind tonight. What do you believe? Missing time in UFOs, this government FOIA release, we're going to look at this, and we're going to talk about this. Do you think it's all hogwash propaganda, or do you think there's something to it? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More Missing time, UFOs, and this government FOIA release, and your phone calls when we return. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. Tonight, we're taking your phone calls as we discuss this idea of UFOs and missing time. What do you think is going on with this? And also, the government has just released 1,500 plus pages of actual UFO information. So we're going to look at some of that stuff as we go tonight. But as always, I want to know what you think. What do you believe about UFOs? What do you think they are? Sort of in the most basic sense here. But again, what about UFO propaganda? What about this idea of missing time? What's going on with this? Who should we trust? Can we trust MUFON? Can we trust the government? Can we trust the tabloids, the Sun in this case, that got the actual FOIA request granted? I can't say that. Say that 3 times fast. Request granted. But I don't know. This one, like I said, I'm always split when stuff like this comes out, because it seems like, okay, this is the government transparency like we've been asking for. But then you also wonder if some of this data has been manipulated, if it's if it's complete, if it, as they say, has been peer reviewed, all the rest of this stuff. I don't know. I wish I had answers, and I absolutely do not have answers. So what are your ideas here? What are your thoughts? One more time, 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. Let's go to James in Michigan. My good friend James Salcido. How are you? How you doing, my man? Oops. No, let's not do that. It helps. I did that once before, where I was not on the air when James was there. James beat me to the on air. Let's try that again. Let's go to James in Michigan. What's up, James? It's Salcido Paranormal. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear. What do you think here? Did you get a chance to look over some of these documents, or is this brand new to you? Are you hearing this for the first time right now?
It's brand new. I normally don't look at a lot of documents because it just takes so long. I have to basically have them read out loud to me. So large documents, I normally just stay away from. I kind of just listen to what everyone else says.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. But it's these kind of drops like this, or these releases. I do think there's 2 things you have to consider, and I think you already kind of mentioned it. There's the government side of it, and then there's the news or the tabloid side of it. And I think you're right to kind of wonder how much of this is propaganda, and or who's editing what before they release it. I think all that comes into play. Yeah, 100%. And so the question becomes, who do you trust, James? Do you trust the government with this information? See, I trust more. I'm heavily focused on accounts from people that have experiences. That's where I prefer to go overall, because again, like I said before, I think there's too many people having too many experiences for it all to be exaggerated or faked or misidentified. I'm sure that those things happen. Like I always say, I don't think there's ever one thing that is happening. I think it's always a mixture of things, but still, just because, I guess maybe because I've experienced strange things, I think maybe I trust the experiencers' own accounts of things more than just an officially written document or something made by a large group that you don't know if it's unified in what they're thinking and all that. So yeah, that's my take on that. Yeah. Okay. So basically, you trust the experiencer and not the government that's collated the information and tried to feed it to us as a document dump. I don't blame you there. What about MUFON? What do you know about MUFON? The Mutual UFO Network. Do you think that's an organization we can trust with actual UFO information? I've heard mixed things about them. I'll just say that I don't really know a lot about them. I've never really had any contact with them. But yeah, I've heard a lot of mixed things. I can't say a lot beyond that because I don't have any. Like, I've just heard things here and there. But I have heard that basically the what do you call it? The higher ups in the organization have not always been so nice or so transparent in a lot of things. So. But I can't think of any one name in particular. But just, I think with any major big organization, you're going to have possibly problems the bigger it is.
Yeah, definitely. And as always, right, organizations, bureaucracies are never a good thing when it comes to information because, again, everything's PR and obfuscation with that type of stuff. So interestingly, we have these documents now. And did you see some of those claims, some of that wild stuff? What do you know about missing time and that whole bit? And what's your theory on why that happens in particular with UFOs?
Yeah, I've definitely heard plenty of stories about it. I had one day where it wasn't really missing time. It was more like I maybe jumped ahead in time. I don't know for sure how it works, but it is odd when time does not appear to be going the way it should. I can say that much. And then, yeah, there's been plenty of stories of experiences I've heard over the years about that kind of thing. And I do wonder, and this is kind of something I'm looking into and going to be looking into more, I do wonder if it has something to do with the energy that these things give off. If the radiation maybe can cause some time anomalies. We were kind of talking about this a couple of nights ago with the solar flare thing, and I forgot who brought it up, but the idea of large amounts of energy possibly disrupting time, and I can see that. And if maybe that is the case also on smaller scales, or there's also the whole abduction thing, which I do believe that there's plenty of cases of that too that are genuine. And again, I don't believe everyone is wrong about what their experience is. So, yeah, that's about all I know for sure on that.
Okay, and then what about this other one? This one seems super wild that it's in there. Unaccounted for pregnancies. What about that? What the hell?
Yeah, I have no idea what that. That's I've heard of the other way where it seems like the person becomes pregnant and then one night they basically go to bed and then the next day they get up and they're not pregnant anymore. I've heard of that as well. That's a whole other thing. I don't know how. I mean, again, I never doubt that that's possible. That's quite the thing to have to go through. I can't imagine that. And then, but also if it's happening where, there's no apparent cause and then it disappears, that has to be maddening for people that maybe go through that, because then they can't say, well, look, this happened, because they don't have proof. I mean, they can say it happened, but they can't prove it happened because, in so many cases, there's no evidence of it afterward.
Yeah, and as always, right, the whole question for all this stuff becomes like, who the hell can you believe? And so I don't know. I have no idea, and that's why we talk about this. I think there's a conversation here about information and sort of the post-truth era, all the propaganda swinging around left and right, up and down, sideways and reverse, and we're just left trying to figure out what the hell, pick up the pieces and figure out what's really going on here, which I don't know. I'm hoping that there's going to be some more information released released from this FOIA thing from the Sun. 1,500 pages is a lot of pages, so hopefully there's something legitimate. The interesting part too about this, James, is this is a FOIA release from ATIP, actually from the vaunted and infamous UFO program that Lou Elizondo said he actually was the head of, right? So this is the actual, as far as I'm aware, first actual data type of information that came out of ATIP. And well, if they're actually talking about like the sort of the abduction phenomena and this type of thing, and interesting, check this out at the very, very bottom of the Live Science article. It's this is what it says: the report concludes that there is sufficient evidence, quote, to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque to full U.S. understandings. What the hell does that mean? That seems pretty vague, but also pretty terrifying if the implications are real. That means this stuff is real, right?
Yeah, and I should say too, it's not that I discount all of these documents. I do like to follow them when they're released. Even if I don't really read through them, I like to follow when they're released and what everyone thinks about it. So I'm looking forward to, as you said, maybe hopefully more coming out. But yeah, that is, if it's the first thing that's being released that was from ATIP, that yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else happens from here.
Yeah, same. I'm looking forward to it. So this is just the first one. Again, we got this document dropped. I'll get back to this in just a sec. The anomalous acute and subacute field effects on human and biological tissues, and we're talking about actual UFOs, if you can believe that. I appreciate it, James. Thank you so much for the phone call. As always, you're welcome to stay if you want to do that. James here has a podcast called Salcedo Paranormal. Check it out. Links in the description down below. He does paranormal stuff Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can go hang out with him on Discord and listen to him record those live. So there you go. James, our paranormal expert. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the call, sir.
Oh, no problem. I'll hang out, and then, yeah, if I think of anything later, I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate that very much. All right, so the question is, of course, what do you guys believe? What do you believe regarding UFOs? What about this FOIA document dump? See what I did there? And do you think it's hogwash? Do you think this is just a bunch of BS or propaganda or something else, or is this really sort of the tip of the iceberg of this information coming from ATIP, from the actual UFO program that was inside the Pentagon, run by none other than, of course, Lou Elizondo? Let's look at a little bit more of this, the actual document itself. It's pretty wild here. Like I said, I'd rather talk to you guys, so love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's look at some of this. It says, all right, this is chapter 1, definition of the topic and domain of this study. So this is the actual right from the document. Okay, I'm going to read just some of this so you guys can see where we're at. The objective of this overall program for which this paper has been prepared is to understand the physics and the engineering of advanced aerospace weapons system applications. Into the future, from now through the year 2050, for instance, this study addresses the clinical, medical signs and symptoms and biophysics of injury known and expected from unintended exposure to anomalous systems. Now, the interesting part of this is, and terrifying even, what is an anomalous system? It's a something. It's a machine of sorts. It's again, the lights in the sky. It's this type of thing. And what exactly is this? Are we seeing lights in the sky that are actually damaging people? I mean, actually causing brain injuries and things like this? I don't know. There's a whole lot that's pretty nuts in here. Well, I'll read a little bit more from this. But really the question of the night is, who do you trust? Do you trust the government to release documents like this? You think this has been? You think this stuff is real? We'll get to the more of this EMR field effects and some of this other stuff. But we're going to go to Robert real quick instead and get back to some of this. Looking to hear your thoughts. We've got this data dump. And I said it right this time. From FOIA request about ATIP, the actual ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, and again run infamously by Lou Elizondo. So if this is what they were talking about, like it seems like he's legitimate then. If this is a real document dump, and they're saying that in this case there's a lot of crazy stuff that was going down with these anomalous systems. So you tell me one more time, 702-957-1037. Let's go to Robert in Pennsylvania. Welcome, the Robert, to Troubled Minds. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks. Go right ahead. What's your idea here with first the FOIA release and then about missing time? What you got for me tonight?
Well, I'd like to start with the two questions you put at the big. I can hear myself talking back and forth over the phone. I'd like to start with the two questions you put forward in the beginning of the podcast.
Sure, go right ahead.
What do you think of UFOs in general? Right? I think, and the evidence that they're there is overwhelming. I mean, and as a matter of fact, it would be even more if the government didn't try so desperately to suppress, the evidence. I mean, they've been around for millenniums. I mean, it's hard for me to really grasp how anybody could possibly, if they have any knowledge of the UFO phenomena, can disagree with the fact that they have been around a long, long time.
Yeah, that seems to track. Again, even in this case, these documents say they go back to 1873, if you can believe that. That's pretty wild, that they were tracking cases as far back as that. But I know what you're saying. You're saying thousands of years, maybe even longer than that. Okay, so definitely you believe this stuff is real.
I can go further than that.
Go ahead.
I can go further than that and say that the Old Testament is basically a UFO catalog.
Okay, and elaborate, please. Meaning,
in one, let's pick a particular instance. I said this before. The exile, all right, the escape from Egypt, the Israelites, and there was objects in the sky that was dropping down manna and other things to support them as they were making their journey. And then at night it would become a ball of fire. You have the Ezekiel story of him being taken up into space in some kind of craft. Sometime back when I was in high school, I forget who it was, maybe it was an English teacher, philosophy teacher, made a statement to me that back in, many thousands of years ago, people didn't know enough to lie, tell fictional stories, make up myths and things like that. That most of what was written back in those days, recorded back in those days, were the truth as they saw it.
Which, of course, just means that they didn't have a proper way to explain these things. So they just described them as angels and demons and devils and all the rest of this stuff, right? It was
but they would, but they weren't making up the events. They were interpreting them, but they weren't making up the events that they witnessed.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you as well.
Go ahead. Which would mean that it's very, very likely that there was a phenomenal civilization many thousands of years ago that created us, but also created some bad things like centaurs and other types of creatures, mythological creatures, that were probably real creatures, that were set down in record, all right, that simply were destroyed exterminated at some time when the original laboratory aliens, the ones that were doing it, realized they had gone too far. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with the big flood. As I said in a previous show, not just to get rid of the giants, but to get rid of the mutated animals. And we're doing those experiments now. We're on the, our own laboratories are starting to do that kind of experiments. So we know that if we're doing it now, it probably, that mythological creatures are probably very, very much real. They were recording something that was real, that was exterminated. I don't want to go back on a tangent because I know you're going into a break, but I'd like to be held over because I got some more to say on this.
Sure. We got probably about 2.5 minutes before we do have to take the break, so we still got some time. So go right ahead.
So, like I said, the Old Testament is basically a compilation of how these aliens, we call them aliens, but they were probably how they elevated the human race. They created it and then they watched over it, and they took sides with tribes and things like that. But I'm going to go on to the second question, and that's, what do you think of missing time and UFOs? Well, I've often felt that these UFOs, if they're so advanced, they probably are time machines. Let's say the Barney and Betty Hill case, right? There's missing time there with that couple, and if a UFO abducted Betty and Barney Hill, they wouldn't just hang around. All right, maybe they accelerated into a future time, or even back in thousands of years ago, just to land somewhere and do what experiments they were that they wanted to do on these two people. And the one thing that's striking about the Betty and Barney Hill case was Betty screaming in her regression as the alien is taking this long needle and sticking it in her navel. All right, that was an amniocentesis, and that was not something that was even common. It wasn't even available. Wasn't even practiced at the time of that abduction. Now it came later on in the late 60s, amniocentesis, but there was no such thing at the time of this UFO abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. To me, when I read that in The Interrupted Journey, I read that book a long time ago. When I saw that, I thought to myself, that's enough for me. There's no way anybody, these two people who were just regular folks like you and me, that she could have known in advance that something like that kind of procedure would actually happen years later, become common years later. And also, I remember in there that when she was complaining and demanding, you have no right to do this to me. And the alien that was doing this needle thing told her, on the continent, you're wrong. We have every right to do this. And to take that position, that they have every right to do that, indicates to me that they're the creators, and they feel they have every right to do with us what they want.
Gotcha. Okay. Good stuff. I like how you're bringing the Betty and Barney Hill case into this. You still want to stay? Hang over to the break?
Yeah, I got one more thing here.
Okay, you got it. Hang tight. I'm going to be right back with you, Robert. Appreciate it very much. Be right back. You're listening to Troubled Minds. This is we're here with my good friend Robert in Pennsylvania, and we're discussing this idea of missing time and UFOs. this government FOIA release sort of talks about some of this stuff and some other pretty disturbing stuff. How real do you think this is? Who can we trust? What about UFO propaganda? And, what are your thoughts? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More UFOs, missing time, FOIA requests, and you when we return. Be right back. We are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
All right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday night, which is one of the nights we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. What are those things we're not allowed to talk about? You know, aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. As always, we're taking your phone calls as we stream on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. If you want to be part of the discussion tonight, we are talking about UFOs, but not just UFOs in the general sense. What about UFOs and missing time? What about UFOs as time machines? We're going to get back to Robert here in just a second and continue that conversation. But what are your thoughts regarding this? The government just released some FOIA documents regarding some UFO information. Again, who do we trust? Do we trust the government with this type of stuff? Do we trust MUFON with this type of stuff? Who can you trust? Like James said, they called in a little while ago. What's up? Shout out to James. He trusts the experiencers. He knows they know what they experienced, and some firsthand accounts to him are probably going to be more trustworthy than government or MUFON or any of the rest of this stuff. So once again, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. 702-957-1037. Let's go right back to Robert in Pennsylvania. Sorry about that for the wait. Go right ahead, my friend. UFOs and time machines.
On that missing time, in the Barney and Benny Hill case, they were missing something like 2.5, 3 hours of time, and that's what made them seek help, because they couldn't. You can't be on the road and your car break down, and then you wake up in the car and 3 hours have passed, and you don't know what happened there. I think that what that missing time is that they were taken aboard that UFO, but after all those things were done to them, they were returned to their car. But apparently these aliens have the ability to erase a memory. And so before they sent them back, they erased their memory of it, and that can only be brought back through hypnotic regression that they went through. And I've listened to some audio from the tapes. That there's some of that's available on the internet, and it's really very interesting and almost frightening in a way, because she's screaming in this hypnotic regression. This is something you just can't fake. So that's where I think this. But I also wonder, the people are abducted by these UFOs, but some are returned. I would probably say maybe the bulk of people that are abductees are returned, but some are not. And I wonder what makes the difference there.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I wonder if.
Go ahead.
And I wonder if some of the hundreds of thousands of missing persons cases throughout the centuries, if the UFOs are not tied to at least some of them.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I wonder if it ties into maybe some of that missing 411 stuff with David Paulides and people kind of going missing in these national parks. That would be curious, kind of out there in the wilderness by themselves. That some of it might track. Again, I don't know. Like I said, how much does that play? Not sure, but it probably is worth looking into that possibility. So what about this idea of again the time machines? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just about to say. Let's I'm going to drink a little bit of maybe ice cream. Drink a little bit of ice cream here. Maybe juice. Maybe, and I said this before, maybe these aliens are us from the future. And I'm going to tie this into our present circumstances. Everybody, I think you're aware of, and probably a lot of the listeners here are aware of, there's been a real concern about the lack of reproductive ability of the human species. It seems like sperm counts are down. It's really getting. As a matter of fact, this is the year where they're saying there'll be more people dying than there will be born. All right, and I'm wondering if these are our ancestors from the future who are coming back, unable to reproduce, no longer able to reproduce. I think the human race is going that way, and coming back to this time, probably not so much our time now because we're already experiencing the problem, but to like the early 1900s, the 1800s, and back, trying to use us as surrogates for continuing the DNA. Are we going to look like those aliens in the future? Are they what we look forward to? No hair, hardly a nose, and apparently no genitalia.
Like George Orwell said, they will eradicate the sex instinct. They will abolish the orgasm. Well, there it is. there it is. Genetic aliens.
We certainly see that. I'm saying it's a little frightening, but is this what's coming? When you're talking about George Orwell, and certainly what he said is coming. All right, but how far does it go? Does it go to where the whole human race no longer, winds up extinct largely because it can't reproduce? And if that's the case, there would, if these are our future ancestors that are coming back in time in these craft, all right, there must be very few of them, and they're in a desperate endeavor to try to do hybrids to try to at least preserve some of the DNA of not only the human race, but the future human race as well.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, and I don't know if you ever watched Stargate, but they've got a race called the, what are they called? I can't remember exactly what they're called. It'll come to me, but they're basically the little gray aliens. And they're doing exactly what you're describing, that they've been sort of genetically modified hybrids for such a long time that their race is dying, and they have to find another way to keep it going. So interesting thought there. Fantastic stuff. We got a ton of calls.
It sounds to me like there's a lot of truth in that. It sounds like there's a lot of truth in that Stargate, and I am going to get off. But I want you to know that I heard you mention that Stargate last night on Netflix, and it piqued my interest, so I'm going to start watching that.
Yeah, do check it out. I think you'll like it. I'm enjoying it pretty much. And there's 7 seasons that I'm into. It goes all the way up to 10 seasons, and then there's spin-offs after that. So yeah, give it a look. I think you'll enjoy it. Appreciate the phone call, my friend.
Okay.
You're the best.
Okay, good night.
Thanks a lot. That's Robert in Pennsylvania, the Robert, affectionately known as. And he's got a book. You can check it out. It's called The Robert Collection, Stories from a Fractured Mind. Links in the description. Let's go to Derek in Massachusetts. Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you?
Sorry. I wasn't expecting me to be next.
That's okay.
Sorry, brother.
That's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. What do you think about this stuff, man? Missing time, UFOs. What about this weird pregnancy thing? What the hell's going on with this?
Yeah, that's wild. I'm going to crank it back to old school and say, are we sure it's aliens, Like, the missing time stuff, the pregnancy stuff, that's all classic fae, elf, fairy type happenings, Fairy abductions were very common. And changelings, there's all types of, they'd abduct children, which is similar to the alien phenomena. There would be, I believe, residual effects afterwards, after you come back. Part of journeying to the other side, or part of journeying to the realm of the fairy, you might come back with these burns. You might come back with some type of like radiation burn, which is interesting to me. It's almost like traveling to the other realm, traveling to whatever like event horizon you have to pass through. It damages the human body. So it makes me wonder about the point of the craft. Are we sure? This is kind of a tangent or whatever, but the Nazi bell, they talk about the way it's depicted a lot is as a UFO, but a lot of the times its main purpose seems to be get through some type of event horizon. And that was kind of how it's depicted in Godzilla vs. Kong. So the radiation part is just super interesting to me, the radiation burn aspect to it, and how it's so similar to like nuclear burns and burns that people have when they're dealing with some type of nuclear radiation, and what the connection is between nukes and UFOs. Is it just that UFOs don't want us firing off nukes, or is the reason why we're firing off nukes because somebody realized that like there's a similar effect, like the radiation of like that's happens after a UFO is the same that happens after a nuke, and then maybe these nukes are actually opening the bridge to wherever these UFOs are actually coming from, and maybe that makes sense.
Yeah. I do like the Fae angle. That's an interesting take there, in that maybe there is some correlation between this abduction phenomenon as in modern times, and then maybe not biblical like Robert was describing, but maybe back to those old stories of the Fae world and whatever radiation sickness or whatever happened with that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's like the missing 411 type stuff. People were getting snatched up all the time. It was common to go in the woods and not come back. That's in all kinds of grim fairy tales. That's big time. And whether it be fairy or elves or something more sinister, there's just something lurking, some type of presence, some type of whatever this trickster spirit is, whatever is the phenomena. Right now, it's taking the shape of UFOs, and that's what they're abducting people, and that's what's getting blamed for a lot of the time for the missing 411. But is it like the ancient aliens people say, where the fairies, the elves, all this phenomena is actually just misdescribed UFO phenomena, and just people didn't have the words for it? Or are we misdescribing something? Or are we using a scientific prism to redescribe something that has been happening since the dawn of humanity? Or is there something else? Is this Jacques Vallée, Don Keel type trickster element? This whatever is outside of our reality. And that brings in the time aspect. It's like the time machine angle is cool, and that can get even into the Bob Lazar type stuff, and where these ships create gravity wells, so when they travel, you wouldn't experience time. So you could have it wouldn't account for as much the missing time where you just lose 3 hours where you just don't know what happened to it, but it would account for you being gone for days and days and then no time had passed when you come back. That type of missing time. As far as no time passing in these gravity wells that Bob Lazar describes. But I like the idea that it's just pulling you out of the time stream. It's just pulling you out of this reality to the reality that doesn't have a grasp over. There's no time, and there's no time in whatever this fourth dimension or whatever this outer realm is. Like this Jacques Vallée idea of this just hand reaching in through our reality from outside of our reality, with like different puppets on its fingers. So one being a demon, an alien, a Bigfoot, whatever, just interacting with us. And when that happens, when they grab us and yank us out, they pull us out of this reality. And in that reality, there is no time. So when they chuck us back, we lost. I don't know. It mucks up our perception of the movement of time. I think, if time is like a construct to this matrix we're living in, it's almost like the people running the simulation kind of reach in, grab the mice or the rats out of the cage, play with them for a little bit, and then throw them back in. And it's like, whoa, or like a fish when they keep going fishing. Somebody pulls a fish out, and the fish is like in some other crazy realm where they can't breathe and all. It's just craziness. And they get chucked back in, and they're like, what happened? And they might perceive that as like some type of alien monsters snatching them up. Who knows? But
yeah, except we're the rats. We're the rats in this scenario.
Exactly, we're the rats. Exactly.
Yeah, pretty wild. I don't know, and I think that's why we talk about this stuff. A lot of theories here. I don't know what to think. Again, some people swear they've had abduction experiences. Other people are saying it's just a bunch of BS. It's so terrifying that if this stuff is actually truly real, we live in a crazy world indeed. That's for damn sure. Derek, I'm going to cut you a little bit short because we got just
for sure.
Wall of calls behind you. I appreciate it, my friend. You're the best. Thanks for popping in here. Thanks for saying hi. Thanks for amazing takes as always. Derek here, the Night Stalker. Have a great one. He's got a YouTube channel. Check it out, the Night Stalker. Links in the description down below. Give him some love. A very, very good friend of mine. Very cool dude. Has amazing ideas about all kinds of stuff. So check out his trailer on YouTube, and let's give him some follows and inspire him to make more content. 702-957-1037. Let's go to Philip in Washington. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Go right ahead, sir. Thanks for being patient.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Strange. This is what I can say about time dilation, and it might be going on. I don't think in the Barney and I forget her name, Mary or something like that.
Betty.
Barney and Betty issue. I think that's more of the going into the energy field of that ship. Because they didn't really say that they lifted off or anything like that, though they might have. And you normally would get that dilation is when you're traveling at superliminal speed, right? Going past. So you're moving into the future and then you come back, so you're moving into the past kind of thing through speed or warping the space-time continuum. But I think what often happens in that missing time, like in the Barney and Betty Hill scenario, is that what they're doing is they're being pulled out of this dimension and put into that dimension in which these ships can operate. And this is kind of like going into the dream state, right? If you don't write your dreams down when you first wake up, you'll lose them. They'll just fade away, right? So that's more what I think is happening with the Barney Hill. I mean, that could be part of that. I mean, there's also the thing of memories being implanted, to confuse the issue.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. If you got that kind of technology, why wouldn't you be able to do that? We can almost do that now with our technology, implant memories in people, right? False memories. That's definitely a thing here. So that tracks, at least technologically speaking. I think it does. So you think the missing time stuff is what does that do to it? So it is due to the propulsion, the advanced propulsion techniques. It is sort of bending space time, and that's what causes this.
Right. Yeah. Basically, you're going into that field, and it's creating its own gravity, its own time, so to speak. I mean, time is kind of illusion because there is really only the now. All things are happening at the same time. We just, but we're only being able to experience what we're viewing right now.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I think it's going into that field of the ship. I mean, there's some guys that built one of these ships that were associated with Tesla. I can't remember exactly what the guy's names was, but he created one of these ships, and he got some guys to ride in it, and they were to go. It was happened in California, and they would go like from LA down to San Diego, and he told them before they got in the ship to get out and pick up some rocks and twigs and stuff, and then get back in the ship and come back. Well, they did that apparently because they came back and they had stuff in their pockets, but they didn't remember any of that trip.
That's wild.
And that shit.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna cut you short here because we got a ton of calls behind you as well. You're the best, Philip in Washington. I appreciate the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the take. We'll talk to you soon. Have a fantastic night, bro. Let's go to Jamie in California. Jamie, go right ahead. You're on Troubled Minds. Got a couple minutes for you, and if you want to wait over till after the break, you're welcome to do that as well. Go right ahead. What's on your mind tonight?
Hi. Oh man. Sorry, I'm just a little nervous.
That's okay. I got you. I got you.
I wanted to talk about The Fourth Kind, the movie The Fourth Kind, which I don't know if you've seen or not, but it's kind of like a documentary, but it's presented as a documentary, but they tell you to basically make your own decision. And basically, this lady, she's a hypnotist therapist who helps people with insomnia, and she goes through different cases where people have been woken up by the same thing, and when she puts them under, they've had experiences with being abducted, and this is all happening in Nome, Alaska. But one of them, after his session, and she brings back the repressed memories, he goes and kills his family, basically, and the police think that she did it, and there's this whole big case going on, so she brings in help from some other people to witness things, and things just get crazy. Her daughter gets abducted. They placed a police officer outside of her house, and on his dash cam, they play two different videos during the whole movie when things are when they're doing things. So there's the one video that they say is the real video of what actually happened, and then there's another video of what's the dramatic reenactment. And in the real video on the police's cam, it gets all fuzzy, like there's an energy field, like you guys have been talking about, and you see basically a big circular shadow move over the lady's house, and you can hear the police. Go ahead.
I'm listening. We got about 20 seconds, so like I said, you're welcome to stay after the break unless you can wind it up super quick. Up to you.
I can stay after the break. I don't mind.
Okay. So we'll get back to this. I think I have seen this movie you're talking about. So hold that thought. We're talking about the police cam, some sort of energy field, and the shadow over the house. So hold that thought. We'll get right back with you. I appreciate it. Going to put you on hold, and we'll be right back with Jamie in California. All right. So what do you guys think? Again, as always, right? This is not about me. This is not about what I think. This is just a conversation, and we're talking about missing time. We're talking about UFOs. What is this about? Lots of accounts kind of describe this as being part of the phenomenon, and what about this government FOIA release? Who do we trust? Do we trust MUFON? Do we trust the government? Who can we trust? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More UFOs, missing time, and your phone calls when we return. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls tonight as we discuss this idea of UFOs and missing time. What are your thoughts? Are UFOs actually time machines? What's going on with this? Again, we're just speaking in theoretical terms here. I've never seen a UFO up close, and hopefully I'm not going to. But some people have stated that in UFO cases, there is a missing time element. What causes this? What is this all about? Looking to hear from you. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And we'll put you on the phone just like this. Let's go right back to Jamie in California. Go right ahead. You are back on Troubled Minds. You were talking about the movie The Fourth Kind. I believe that's with Mila Jovovich. And you were also describing the video as some sort of energy field from the cop dash cam. Go right ahead.
Right. So basically, she has her daughter abducted through the roof, and they catch it on the dash cam, but the video is very distorted. So I was wondering if I was going to link this into the question, but I was wondering if you thought it would be possible that to be abducted without leaving a trace.
I think absolutely. In terms of just advanced technology, if we are really dealing with, let's say advanced technology that's 1,000 or 2,000 or several thousand generations ahead of us, I think that'd be super easy. I mean, not saying it's Star Trek world or anything, but I mean, something very much like their transporter system, right? Like you can kind of just bam, people disappear without a trace. I can definitely see that being a possibility for sure, assuming the technological. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I said, kind of like Beam Me Up, Scotty.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of idea.
Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that's real, but if the technology seems to be pointing in that direction, then I'll give it a good solid maybe, or even probably. Yeah. So what do you think? What about this missing time and the UFOs? Go ahead.
I feel like, but I don't really. So with the missing time, I think it's more like you've been drugged rather than actual distortion of time. Maybe they've blanked your memory, kind of like with an MK Ultra technology that they've already had, or something like the aliens have already had developed, and or maybe they're just using drugs to kind of keep you sedated and keep you from remembering what happened, Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's also possible that. What was that?
Yeah, just real quick, when they put you out for surgery, that the anesthesiologist comes in and you're out. It's like literally your consciousness blacks, and when you come back, you sort of have that same sort of idea of missing time, right? You're not sure how long you've been out, what day is it, that sort of thing. So that kind of tracks as well, if you're talking about technology, right?
Right. You don't even have to have super sophisticated technology. All you do is have sophisticated knowledge of medicine.
Right, exactly. And I mean, arguably, we're not even there yet, super sophisticated medicine-wise. So, yeah, for sure. Being able to maybe kind of just turn off the consciousness for a little bit would cause that missing time effect, even in terms of not having an actual time distortion at all. So, yeah, I like where you're headed with that. What else you got for us tonight, my friend?
Do you think that it's possible the media has been drip feeding people bits of the truth for, I don't know, the last 50 years, maybe more?
Yeah, I think that's part of the game, actually. I think part of the game here is, in my opinion, it's disclosure is one of those things that's heavily obfuscated for probably a lot of reasons. And so that's why I talk about UFO as the UFO news as propaganda, because I don't know what to believe anymore. Even if you get some super outlandish claims that the government is even sort of backed up, you're still wondering if this is real or not. So, yeah, I don't know. I think definitely. I think there's a big game going on, and what part of it's real? Your guess is as good as mine, my friend. I have no idea.
I always talk about how, it's kind of like a shadow game of chess where the pieces are like the cogs, the major cogs of civilization, and we're just being toyed with on a grand scale by maybe a advanced civilization. The next part, the next higher ripple in the food web. That can do everything we do with our food, but mix it in with advanced technology.
Yeah, could be. I like where you're headed with some of this stuff. Got an open mind. You're definitely in the right place. How did you find the show?
Spotify, actually. I just started listening to new podcasts, and I figured, hey, this one seemed like a cool one.
Okay, well, welcome. First-time caller, that's why I asked you that. You are welcome anytime. Good thoughts. I appreciate you listening. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for the phone call. You're the best.
Absolutely.
Have a great night. You too. There you go. That's Jamie in California. Found us on Spotify. And there you go. Simple as that. If you want to be part of the discussion tonight, we're still taking your phone calls. Missing time and UFOs. We've got this government FOIA release that just came out. Dropped by the Sun of all publications. Like I described them previously, sort of a scummy tabloid, right? That's probably being nice. But they're the ones that supposedly got this FOIA from the government regarding not just this other weird stuff, including we're talking about missing time tonight, but UFOs left radiation burns unaccounted for pregnancies, which is absolutely wild, and this new Pentagon report claims. So they're saying it's 1,500 pages of information was released, but we've only got 38 pages here. So I've got that linked in the description down below if you guys want to check it out. But we're still taking your calls, 702-957-1037. What do you think about missing time, UFOs, and what about this government FOIA release? Who do we trust? Let's go to Elliot in Texas. Welcome to Troubled Minds, my friend. Go right ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you? What's on your mind?
Good. So last time I called, I was kind of having trouble because I was pausing a lot. So I'm just going to kind of monologue this and get it all out there.
Sure.
And then I'll tell you to respond. All right. So last time I had talked about the Book of Enoch and the giants. And, I've heard that. I think, the aliens and stuff, it would say, it has something to do with, the Watchers, and that these are, some kind of spirits, perhaps. And along those lines, actually, no, completely different from that. So I used to do a lot of meditation, and when I was doing, a lot of meditation, I would start, spontaneously astral projecting sometimes. And before I really knew what that was, I had this experience that I was starting to see these really swirly green lights and started hearing these really loud sounds like engines. And I was paralyzed, and then I felt like I was being levitated. And at the time, I thought I was being abducted by aliens, and it was pretty horrifying. And I fought it, and I kind of broke out of it. And somebody else was in the room, and I asked them, I was like, was I floating? And they're like, no, you weren't. And so it was obviously just in my mind, but the experience was kind of weird. And then that segues on to another experience where I was meditating, and I was in a bathroom, and there's a window in there. And when I'd meditate, if my eyes were open and it was dark, sometimes I'd have some color distortions. And while I was doing that, just doing deep breathing with my eyes open, I freaking had an orb of light, a little ball, come through this window, came up to me and touched me and electrocuted me. And the way I could describe it, it was an electrocution, but it was in a good way. It didn't hurt, but it scared me. And I heard somebody mention on a podcast the other day something along those lines. So I thought I would bring that up, and I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. That's interesting. So do you think that whatever this thing came in, you think you summoned it somehow? Sort of like that CE5 Dr. Greer experience, something like that?
So part of me thinks that the reason it came, if it has any sort of intention, is that one of my theories was it was either marking me as somebody maybe that has been doing meditation or has been able to do astral projection. And so it could either be saying this guy knows too much, maybe we need to cull him, or on the other end, like maybe he's, able to ascend in the future. These was just like one line of thought. And then the other idea was like perhaps it's activating some kind of genetic component or some type of transcription factors, and like maybe even activating something along those lines. And to go with that, I just had one other experience where I was like doing this meditation, and I had this vision where like I saw like a shadow, and it was like in a mirror. It was like it looked like an Egyptian woman. I turned to look at her, and like the moment I would have seen her, I just felt like my whole body like was on fire, and like I was expanding. And so that was also like reminiscent of the other experience. It's just like these weird physical sensations that like I really can't explain, and it kind of reminds me also of like the Kundalini stuff. But I've never actually seen like any aliens. Closest thing to that would be like seeing a face of like a reptilian while like trying to meditate. All right, that's pretty much what I got for that.
Okay, I appreciate it. So what do you think about these claims of missing time and the rest of that? How do you think that plays into some of this stuff here?
So as far as the missing time, I think a lot of it just comes to like memory. Like for people that do astral projection, a lot of people don't remember when they come back. Same with dreams. So I think it could be something with just like an altered state of consciousness and not like being able to like turn that into like a long-term memory. But I also think it could be like, some kind of mind wipe, like Men in Black, something like that. But I don't really have too many thoughts on that.
Gotcha. Okay. Fantastic. I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for having some interesting stuff to add to the conversation. As I told you last time, you're welcome back anytime. You're the best. That's Elliot in Texas. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks a lot. There we go. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. We'll put you on the show. We're talking about this idea of missing time in UFOs and this data dump. Information came out from a FOIA request, apparently by the Sun, actually like a tabloid, and which is, again, makes you raise your eyebrows even more, like, what the hell is this? But so who can you trust, right? What about missing time in UFOs? Who can you trust regarding disclosure? And do you think any of this is real at all? Of course, that needs to be discussed as part of this this whole shenanigan of whatever the heck this is. So let's do the thing. Let's go to looks like we got APOC in Oklahoma. I was about to say Montana. APOC, welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you?
Hello. Well, okay. Do you want to give me a place to start? Because there's so much here.
Sure. Let's start with missing time in UFOs. Let's start there.
Okay, so consider the possibility that UFOs, because the way that they work, or theoretically the way that they could work, is that they navigate an electromagnetic gravitational field to pop in and out of wherever they're going, or to move quickly, to have their own gravitational field within the craft so that they're not, thrown back and forth. They're not, they're adapting to their own gravity as opposed to adapting to the Earth's gravity. So theoretically, that would affect time and how it works. And I know that, a lot of people are saying time doesn't exist, and in the singularity, time wouldn't exist, but I did want to suggest the possibility for people to possibly drink some maybe juice and say, hey, if consciousness is related to time, in other words, if we are creating time, or time is creating us, or consciousness is part of the phenomena of time, then both things could be true. Time doesn't exist without us perceiving that it exists. And yet, in order for us to physically navigate, time must exist, because we need a linear plane of existence to move within, because within a singularity where time doesn't exist, we wouldn't be able to move. There would just be information. So there's some maybe juice for the people who are saying that time doesn't exist, because possibly it is through our consciousness that time actually does exist. And if you go into the time dilation stuff that the oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, they're a group of people around the world who are working on the science of time dilation, and they have succeeded in changing the way that time works within a particular field, with lasers and gases and other things. And it's quite interesting, but they can go backwards and forwards in time within that field. So if time were not real, then that manipulation of time certainly wouldn't be able to exist. But also consider the possibility that the UFOs could be us in the future. Because if they can navigate through time, and we are having these time anomalies, which I do want to also point out that there are time anomalies where people gain time as well, like James, and there are a lot of other people who have had that experience as well. So it's not just losing time, it's gaining time sometimes. If we were to consider that time can go in both directions, and people in the future, possibly like us, have been able to navigate time, to dilate time, to affect time in some way, then what if we're the ones that in the future are coming back to mess with our genetics and work on stuff and whatever. And we're trying to, I know that that's a potential theory, that some people have suggested, but it's one that kind of makes sense to me. We've had all this information, and we have to kind of weed through it and use our intuition and our instincts as to what sort of makes sense to us and what doesn't. And that's one of the things that to me has always been on the top few in my list. What if we're the aliens, right?
Yeah, so sort of going back to see ourselves through some sort of time travel device. Even as Robert described it, since our birth rates are plummeting and fertility is at an all-time low, in many ways, it's possible that in the future, the human race is actually in dire need of maybe a different form of DNA. So maybe that is what's happening. As some sort of like the drinking some serious maybe juices. Like I said, some people have suggested that it's possible they are us from the future. I like the idea. So what about this? The rest of this with the FOIAs. So who do we trust when we get a FOIA release like this? Again, it's coming from a tabloid in the Sun, unfortunately. But if it is a government document that's stating things like, and this is absolutely wild, unaccounted for pregnancies, that seems to track with sort of not just your theory there, but what Robert was saying as well. Maybe we have a situation where this hybridization program or whatever the UFO stuff, the abduction phenomena actually works with, is to draw DNA for who knows what else. I don't know. Again, I fill in the blanks. But so the question is, who do we trust here? Do you trust the government? Do you trust MUFON? When we get a document dump like this, should be taken with a grain of salt? What's your thought?
Well, I think we should always take everything with a grain of salt, but then sort of use the information to collect more information and put it in, and sort of, we don't trust. Why would we trust the government? But why would we trust? Why would we trust anybody else, really? So I think personally, we take what we take in, the information, and we use it to see what's more likely than not. And yeah, I think it was yesterday morning that I saw that they had released some stuff, and it was interesting, but I'm not that interested. Everybody talks about this whole disclosure thing happening, and it's like, guys, we're never going to get what you want. It's like there's not going to be this huge, we're giving you everything moment, right? They're going to give little bits and little pieces, and it's all going to be redacted, right? One of the things that somebody got back was redacted 3 times by 3 separate collections of individuals, probably in the way that it was blacked out. But But they're only going to put out what they want us to know, or what they think it's okay to release, and that may or may not be accurate. The government are people too, and it could be that they could have stuff in there that was what they wanted us to think, or they can maybe manipulate the information to make it look like it's something that it's not. But regardless, it's just information, and we're all just people. So I'd say trust the government just as much as you're going to trust a stranger on the street,
Okay. And that's very good. We got a couple minutes here before we got to go get off the radio. Your quick thought on MUFON. What do you know about them and that organization? Do you think that's one of the organizations we should trust, or does that fall into that same group of trust no one sort of thing, like you just described with the government?
MUFON. Oh, goodness. Okay, so there are a lot of people who have been in MUFON who have come out and said MUFON removes information before they post the personal things online. If they get some stuff that doesn't fit into their category, if it's too spiritual, or if it's too metaphysical, or if it's too woo-woo, they're going to pull out that information and just put in whatever works for them. And that's coming from people who've been in MUFON. And so that to me tells me, nope. Again, it's whatever they want you to know, they're going to put out there. I think it's the same scenario with MUFON, sadly. And again, I'm sort of with James. I take people's experiences and interacting with them personally and getting their individual personal experiences as being so much more valid than a lot of this other stuff. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, perfect. You're welcome to stay right there. Of course, we're going to get into the third hour here. APOC here, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. She has a podcast called Apocalypse Tau. Check it out. Links down in the description. And she's just getting going, but let's give her some follows and inspire her to make more podcasts. You're the best, APOC. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the phone call. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right on. So we're still talking about this stuff. We're still considering, right? What about this missing time in UFOs? It does seem to be maybe a trick of the consciousness. Maybe like as some of the callers said tonight, maybe it is sort of like the anesthesiologist, where they just turn you off for a moment and turn you back on, and that would account for some missing time. But what I don't know. At the end, right? We have these discussions, all kinds of great ideas from all kinds of amazing people, and still no answers. I think that's the unfortunate part, that being the question show is answers seem to be elusive. And like I said, if anybody has easy answers, you should run far away from the easy answers, in my opinion. So we're going to keep doing this, as you know. The bad news is we're done for tonight on Fringe FM. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. And as it finishes, if you're listening to us on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop and Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, including the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds. And it goes like this: be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Damn, I'm good. Down to the second. Down to the exact second. 9 o'clock on the dot, off the radio. All right, so we are into the third hour, which means we're here talking to you. And what is your idea regarding UFOs missing time? What about these FOIA documents? What's going on with this? What do you believe about UFOs? What do you believe about the propaganda? What do you believe about experiencer accounts? And where is the truth in all of this madness? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Give us a call. We'll put you on the show. I see you there, Daryl. Please mute up, and we'll be right with you in just a second. I'm going to mute you here. So, we'll be right back with Daryl in New York and your phone calls. 2-minute break. More Troubled Minds on the way. 2-minute break. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, D-Live, and Twitter, and we're taking your phone calls. What's your thought on missing time and UFOs? What is this about? Do you think this is, again, some sort of a mythology sort of concocted by a UFO cabal? Or do you think that there's something to this and some of these experiencer accounts actually have, maybe a hint of truth to this? I don't know. Like I said, I've never been close enough to a UFO. I've seen some odd lights in the sky in my time. Not a ton, a few total in my life, but I've never been close, right? It's been way up there and like, what the hell is that type of thing? But not like close enough to get any sort of missing time, any sort of actual damage from the craft themselves, right? Nothing like that. But some of these accounts, and again, these documents released from ATIP, which again, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, run infamously by Lou Elizondo, is it seems like there's, again, UFOs left radiation burns, unaccounted for pregnancies, which just seems absolutely wild to me. I'll try and find that part of the document as we go tonight. But I mean, this is the type of stuff that it's like, all right, if this is really what's going on out there, and the government has documents regarding this stuff, that they do know a ton about this, and they're again kind of sandbagging us and not really giving us a lot of good information. And I think that's the thing that really sort of pisses me off regarding this. So there you go. Talking about this. What do you know about UFOs and time dilation and missing time and the rest of these things? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037, and we'll put you on the show just like this. Let's go to MJ in Virginia. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead, my friend.
Hey, Michael. Missing time is interesting. My experience with missing time, first off, they're able to supersede their reality over your reality. So let's say you're on a table, and the table is the doorway between the two realities. Okay, they're able to do that. So that would be your missing time thing. The missing time physically would be, let's say you left your house and you get to the end of the road, you take a right and go down to the convenience store, and it's 10 minutes away. True missing time would be you're at the stop sign, and then suddenly 4 hours later, you're sitting in front of the convenience store. It only took you 10 minutes, supposed to get 10 minutes to get there, but 4 hours later, you're just sitting in the front of it. That's where you wake up. That's true missing time. Okay, that's how you can document it. It's physical. A lot of people will experience dream state stuff. Okay, and when they supersede their reality over your reality, what happens is you can be gone for 5 years, but they take you back right when the time that they took you. So you didn't miss any time here, but you were gone for 5 years. So you didn't age any, but that actually did happen.
Okay, so this is a real thing then. That you think this is actually out there happening to people? They're being taken for who knows how long and returned, and almost like nothing happened, and so they completely forget it. Is it sort of that effect, like like the Men in Black, how they have like that flash, and then it just kind of erases memory, or is it something different than that as far as the memory is concerned?
No, it's not like that. You're put to sleep. Your mind's just they can just shut your mind off, and you don't remember it. What happens over the years is you start to remember stuff that happened in the past. Okay, those things do happen. I've woken up with burns on my body, and I went to bed, didn't have them before I went to bed. And the last time that happened, I realized that the burns were about maybe the scabs were about 3 to 4 days old because it was healed over. It was either electrical or chemical, and the scab had like a sandpaper texture to it. It wasn't like a normal scab would sink in. This was raised up, and it was like sandpaper. So those things are actually happening. What the government's doing right now is they're putting on information that's like 50, 60, 70 years old. So they're not playing catch up. It's really, they're trying to slow it down as far as information coming out.
Okay. All right. I can buy that. So what about this next bit? What about the government documents here? Have you heard of this? The idea of unaccounted for pregnancies? What do you think's happening there?
It's very much about DNA. Yes. I don't know a woman that has had that, but I've heard that report of it. And, it's the same thing. It's a DNA, cause I asked about that a while back. It's like, why is, cause this has been going on since I've been like 8 years old, and it's still going on. And what's it all about? And a lot of it's about DNA. There's just this trade-off of DNA. It's almost like it's a commodity to somebody. The two things people don't realize: one, aliens are doing it, but that's like a small percentage of it. What it's developed into is our own people are taking our own people, like cattle mutilations. And I've finally recognized between alien and us. When it's us, it's much more brutal. And I can't remember a thing. Visually, I can't just see black. And then if it's done by alien, I can get into it and I can remember the dream of what was said and what was going on. That's not us. They're not allowing us to see it. So we've got the technology to do those things now. They've had it for a while, about 50-some years now.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you think there is something to this? This isn't just some hogwash government report. There's something happening here. So regarding these reports from the government, how far should we trust them? What do you think about disclosure and transparency?
Well, there's disclosure and transparency, but the stuff that they're spitting out has been said for years. So they're not putting out anything that hasn't already been experienced or people have already heard about. So there's no exposure there that they're doing. They're not taking any risks as far as that's concerned. So when I hear it, it's like, yeah, but we've already experienced all that. So you're not telling me anything that most of us, or at least the experiencers, don't already know. And then your general public is getting their idea to it, but they're like the general public, if they're not around it, they're like 50 years behind. So, and it's not a sense of getting everybody on the same page. It's actually slowing it down.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And final question for you. What do you know about MUFON? Do you think that's an organization we can actually trust as part of this disclosure process?
No. I dealt with MUFON once. And I had this little town I'd take different, it's down in Arizona. I'd invite people up from Phoenix, like, yeah, you got to come see this stuff, And so I finally contacted MUFON. I thought I'd do the MUFON thing. And periodically, if you sat outside, this one spot I'd sit, if everybody was cool about it and they were just kind of relaxed and, hey, this is kind of cool, it wouldn't cloud up. If people got up there and they were, I guess, negative or tight or something, I don't know what it was, their personalities weren't right for it, it would cloud up and they'd never see anything. I had MUFON come up. And the guy came up, and I'm looking around, I'm seeing something fly by, satellite or something. And he's staring at the horizon. They only show up at the horizon. That's where they're going to show up. So he's watching the horizon, and everything. Since he got up there, it just started clouding up, and the whole sky just covered up, and you couldn't see anything after that. He was very unwilling to hear anything I had to say. And as far as MUFON's concerned, they suck. They don't do anything. They're compiling this information, and it goes absolutely nowhere. They're just not a good organization to deal with at all, I don't think.
Gotcha. Okay. Fantastic stuff. We got a bunch of calls behind you we got to get to. So what's your final thought on this tonight?
When they come in and show me a craft that I can get into, and there's a little alien standing there, giving a tour, that's when we can all be up to date with it. Other than that, they're just going to keep dragging you on for they're just not going to give you full disclosure. They're just not interested in doing that, so. Gotcha.
All right. We'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully you're wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, because I agree with you right there. You're the best, bro. MJ in Virginia, thanks for the call. Thanks for listening. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Have a great one. There you go. 702-957-1037. I see you there, Joseph, but I skipped Daryl. Sorry, Daryl. We were working on that mute thing. Are you there? Daryl in New York. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Test 1, 2.
Yes, hi, Michael.
Good evening.
Great show.
Thank you. What are your thoughts? Where do we stand now with this? The weirdness of time dilation and missing time with UFOs, and then I especially want to ask you about this super weird one: unaccounted for pregnancies. What the hell is this? What the hell is that?
Oh, I've heard that one. I agree a lot with APOC that I think you have to trust the experiencers. They're the ones that are going through this, and they have so many common threads and patterns. Once you hear them, they can all have the same experience without hearing the other experiencers, like they've been interviewed separately, and they all seem to have a similar narrative. Like the pregnancy thing, after they lose their baby, somehow they get back invited onto a ship, or they wind up seeing their child. They have a moment with the child. They know it's theirs, but they know that they're not going to really come home with them. They don't feel that possessive over them, but they have love for them. That they wind up, and also the other things experiencers have in common, they drive the ship with their mind. That's a common thing that I've heard. It's not one or two, but many people, when they say they were on ships, they've driven them. The lost pregnancies, and they one day they're pregnant, the next day they're not. The other thing I was going to mention, common stories. The babies is okay. Trust the experiencers. Also, some of them might be government abductions, and we know government does experiment on people without their knowledge. I've heard rumors. I can't prove it, but I've heard. I've heard some people talk about that, and they seem to have technology also that erases your memories in other mind control experiments. Why don't we remember collectively anything from our past? Including past lives. It seems like we have this amazing amnesia that we experience, and I'm sure it's something to do with technology. I wanted to mention, I've talked about this before in the past. My neighbor went through missing time in Canada. I mean, it was quite an experience. He lost 4 hours. They wound up on the wrong side of the road. They were in the wrong seats in the car, and their clothing was on backwards, and they don't remember much. But he started to remember many things later, like the lights that were over them. They saw some kind of craft that was over them. There was a guy driving in the other direction, terrified. And they were blinded by the light, and they didn't remember anything after that. And he wound up getting an MRI many, many years later, where the doctor said to him, "Do you ever want to get that shrapnel out of your leg?" I said, "What shrapnel? I've never done any, wartime. I've never been on the field or anything, and I never saw any action." He says, "Well, you certainly have shrapnel in your knee." And I got him this book. This doctor, Roger, I think his name was Roger Lear. He had removed 15 similar implants on 15 different people. They have no explanation why they have this metal in their knee, in their brain, in their testicles. In the weirdest places, and they don't remember getting it. They had a small scar. They barely even knew that it was there until it was revealed in some sort of, imaging, either X-ray or MRI or something like that, radiology. And there was some, made of some sort of similar material that was not really any material that was familiar to us on our, periodic table. So there was some sort of a, honing device like you would put on a dolphin or an animal that you wanted to track, but it was done very effortlessly and very painlessly. They barely felt it. And some of them don't even know they have it, Some people do know they have it because they feel it. Like, what is that, And there was a whole book written about it. This doctor had definitely removed quite a few of them. And they were convinced that it was some kind of alien technology. So let's see. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, the other thing about MUFON. Each state has a different MUFON, variant. So, like when I contacted MUFON myself in New York because I had seen some crazy stuff. And they said, well, listen, first you have to fill out a form. If you spell anything wrong, we're going to reject it. We don't take anything if you don't write correctly or legibly, or, even if you misspell stuff, we're going to just think you're some kind of, stupid, redhead.
Yeah.
And, we're not going to even find you credible if you don't even know how to write a correct letter. So, I was up against a lot because I don't spell very well, so like they're going to definitely reject me, I'm sure. And it's like filling out a big form and uploading images or videos, explaining the time, the date. If you look at the form you have to fill out, it's pretty evolved and it's not familiar to you. So you might miss something and then you can't end the form. So, it takes a lot of work to just fill out the report form. With accuracy, with all the dates, with all the data that they want you to provide, the time, the date, the size, the shape, the color, what was happening at that moment, the time of the date, did anyone else see it, where was it seen, the location, what proof you have, really accurate. You can't estimate what day it was. Like, you really have to remember the specifics, very, specific. So I think they do take things seriously for sure. And they're all different. Every state has a different one. So they're as good as the people that are running it. And they're people just like you and me, You could be in MUFON. I could be in MUFON,
Gotcha.
So,
that's a good point. Kind of as talking crap about an entire organization. Probably not good. Like you said, it depends on the people and the states and all the rest of that.
Absolutely.
So great job pointing that out and snapping it back to being real. Appreciate it very much. Daryl here, a good friend of mine, good friend of the show. She's got a YouTube channel. Check it out. Scroll down, links in the description. She sings in English and French and has got some stuff on Morgellons and a whole bunch of other stuff on her YouTube channel. Go give her some love. Check it out. Thank you very much, Daryl. Appreciate the phone call. You're the best. Let's go to thank you. Let's go to Joseph in Iowa. I see there, Kelly. We'll be right with you. Joseph's been waiting for a long time too. Let's go to Joseph in Iowa. You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
Hey.
What's up?
So I was thinking from that last call, or maybe it wasn't that last call. If there was a spaceship or whatever that we're beamed up to, and at the end, and there's telepathy, right? Because everything seems to operate in telepathy. Then wouldn't we all kind of be riding the ship or driving it at once? It would be kind of you can almost say there's a god that controls all of there would have to be an overmind of the telepathy, because the dream, I had a dream one time where, I think I told you about this dream, but I don't really want to go and talk about it again, but it was telepathy, but it's deeper. You can feel what they're about to do. You can feel what they are doing. And in a way you can manipulate what they are doing,
Yeah. Okay. So interesting.
But
some of these
also they can do that to you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Or they can get rid of you. You could be put back into this place in a snap if they realize you're or you're conscious. If you do something, it's just weird. But like time dilation and stuff, I was thinking I've had like gain time when I had my experience with the flash, where you see everything, or like, yeah, like you pass recognizable geometry relatively fast, considering looking back, you see it all in a flash, like, you know, and I say all because, like, it feels like you see like everything. You literally see the light. You catch up to the light you are on. You're traveling on a light. And when you catch up to that light, you're there with it. Like, you know?
Yeah, okay. I follow you there.
I think it's hard to take that back. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. So, okay. So how does this relate back to the UFOs and missing time? Is this related, or is this something else entirely?
Well, I'm not really sure, like, how to really connect to UFOs. Like, I always think of UFOs as like something that we can see, but I think we're engineered so we can't see like these things. Like, we're engineered to not see, and that's for a purpose on our mission. We have a mission to do for our own survival, you know, and like call it a cheat code, like I think like a feature or like a slight manipulation to a trajectory, you know, like, I don't know. And I think that would definitely like cause some attention, you know. But what else? I wrote something down here. What did I write? Yeah, I don't know, like, because my experience, it was alien. It said believe. Like, it made, like, you know, believe, like, you can feel belief. And it was saying believe, or I'm not going to say it, like, it was like a threat, my experience. And then I also had an experience, it was a dark time in my life where I would lose time. Like, this is a whole dark story. This was actually not even that long ago. This was after the first experience and I would miss, like, let's say I'm driving through the city. I'd miss 30 minutes of time, and next thing you know, I'd be out of the town. I'd be looking at corn. I'd be like, I missed my exit like 20 minutes ago.
That's terrifying. And did this go on for very long? Was it just once?
And who's driving the ship there?
Yeah,
who's
exactly.
driving the ship there? Yeah, and no, that's happened. I'm not gonna lie, that was drugs. Like, I went into a dark spiral. Like, if you listen to my music, you can tell.
Gotcha. Okay, so it is clearly. I think that would make some sense. But what about ever happened to you when you weren't on some sort of substance, where you just lost time for whatever reason?
I think so. Like, I think the drugs accelerated something in me. That's for sure. Like, I would space out, but like, also I played baseball. Like, right now I'm throwing a ball around. I played baseball and I would blank out. I was a pitcher in baseball. I would blank out time. Like, when I'm playing, I would blank out time. When I'm throwing the ball, like, I could throw that stuff when I was like 13 years old. I could throw it like 75 miles per hour, and I would blank out. And like, I couldn't hear nothing. And that's like when my experience happened. The first thing that goes out is your sound. You can't hear anybody. You can hear like muffles. And then everything turns to water. And you see, it's not water. It's like you start going through, you know?
Yeah, sort of like a sort of back into this reality, like kind of crossing through a threshold, like we were talking about last night.
Yeah, like back to the spaceship, maybe, and then maybe you can't just take that back. Like I said, you see it all pass by, like in a flash, like all. I don't know. And you can't trust experiences either because they're coming back from this filter. Like, you can only take the data from all that stuff, is what I believe, and try as hard as you can to connect the dots, is what I believe. Because right away, when I got back, like, there's no way I could have wrote that stuff. Like, in my head, I had, like, decisions to make. Like, I could, like, write about this the rest of my life. Literally the same thing.
Gotcha. All right. Good stuff. I like the firsthand accounts of some of this stuff happening. I appreciate it, my friend. Joseph in Iowa. Anything else you got for us? We got calls behind you, so we got to scoot. But what's your final thought here?
I mean, to train time, I think working's good, but also having fun is a good thing, man. If you're having fun and having exercise, you're not just like sitting at the computer having fun, but like having real life fun, your time is going to be more valuable. That's it.
Gotcha. All right. I appreciate it. Joseph here has a YouTube channel. Check it out. It's called Hydro Hose. Link in the description. He does, like he was describing, some music and some other stuff. Check out his YouTube channel. He's been streaming live lately. I popped into one of his streams for a little while. So do go check that out. Appreciate it.
I'm gonna document my business venture too. It might be a fail.
Okay, cool.
But I have high hopes for it.
And good luck. Good luck with that. Go get it, bro. Go get it. Joseph, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call. Have a great night, man, and good luck with the business.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There you go. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link, troubledminds.org. UFO sightings have left witnesses with radiation burns, brain damage, and perceived time suspension. Is this new? Is this not new? What's going on with this? Let's go to Kelly in Colorado. Welcome to Troubled Minds, my friend. Thanks for being patient.
Good evening. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Doing the thing, just another night talking about wacky stuff like we do. What do you think about all the rest of this? Do you think there's something to this stuff, or it's just a bunch of government propaganda?
Which part you want to start with?
You tell me. Missing time or the propaganda, or you pick.
Hey, so let's go with the missing time first, Scott. I have some start with that. So I take it as two different ways. Right? You can either take it as, that when they do kidnap you or they abduct you, right? And they take you in their ship and they, let's say they go to space, right? And they need to move about so they're not detected, right? And if that's the case, then the whole time in space theory is correct, right? Because they're all theories. Everything that we don't even know about, we're just making theories of most of the stuff that we're contemplating on the universe. Or it's just like what you and Jamie were, the earlier caller, Jamie, he was talking about, or it's like a drug, or something where they're using, maybe they have the ability for, telepathy that they can ease the mind, right, and, put you out. Because it is true that when you do wake up, even like in surgeries like you're talking about, that, you really don't even know where you're at. Sometimes you don't even know where you're at. Like I had a couple surgeries I had done. I wake up and, it don't even seem like it was that long. One surgery didn't even seem like it was just like, I closed my eyes like I blinked. Another one seemed like it was just like, you don't even know where you're at, just at first. And then, time and date, that's like the least of your worries. But I could see that, that'd be two ways I would think about it. But the whole, for me though, it's hard for me to get down on that maybe juice where, the whole theories of, believing in bending time space, that you can jump in the future and the past. For me, it's just the present is the present, right? Now, if you got a vehicle, you're going, that has to be able to go to speed of light, and you're going to a distant star, and it takes 25 light years. So if you're going to speed of light, I don't know the numbers, but let's just take this. And it takes 6 months to get there. You stay there for 2 days, then you fly back, and it takes 6 months. I say that was only still a year and 2 days. There was no fluctuation of time, space. I think what they're talking about for me, the time space, is that you're going so fast that it seems like you're bending that, because, but even then, if you had, trying to reach the deepest part, you still need kind of like a jump gate, like jumping from, a star system to a star system via the stars itself. You know what I mean? Where the planets rotate around. But, again, those are all theories, which, we can all, and those are all maybe, we call it here, maybe juice, but I kind of like that. It's a nice theory, it could be something to get your mind around. But, and another one for me is, too, like you take a telescope, these giant telescopes that we have, and we're looking deep into space, and they're telling you that you're looking into the past, like all these stars are dead, but if you're looking at it via the eye, man, it's still there to me. I don't think that I'm looking in the past and then finally, it blinks out and it died, but it died a couple million years ago. That's kind of far fetched for me. I think it, like I said, sometimes I think it's just the present is the present. You can't live in the past or the future, because all you got is the present. But, for me, sometimes, like, if you see UFOs, they've seen films where they look like they're skipping across the sky. For me, and what makes more sense is they're dimensional beings. Kind of like the thing where a lot of people called about, and, it's been recorded that, where he's saying that it was a precursor when we went to the moon, right? And that was on AM, I think, Coast to Coast. That guy was freaking out. But he's saying that they're dimensional. For me, that makes more sense if they are dimensional and can skip into another dimension, and you can also get a time stoppage, right? And in that other dimension, they might have took 15 minutes, but in this dimension, it maybe took a week, couple weeks, because you hear different stories, I don't know so much about the Barney and Betty Hill story where they missed time or anything like that. But you have the Travis Walton story, right? And he said he missed time, a time jump or something like that. The only thing with the Hill cases, Miss Betty, she was saying that she had that needle that was put in her stomach, and she was asking them what they were doing, and they told her it was a pregnancy test. And then years later, with our science, we had the exact same thing where the doctors put it in there and they're checking the fluid, umbilical fluid that's inside with the baby. So perhaps, because she wasn't like, I don't know, she was like, she was, I wouldn't say skinny lady, but she doesn't look like she was pregnant. It's interesting that they were just doing that experiment on her. And then, get into like, if these things can damage the body, I posted some things on Discord that where they're showing something like that. The guy, his name was Steve Mitcha, and he was from Canada, and they were out fishing on a lake. That's an older one. It's in a newspaper. I didn't catch the date, but it was a while ago. And his was that they seen walked up on a UFO. They seen one, but he said that he heard voices coming from looked like a vent on the side of the UFO, and it was slowly turning. So they went to go hear, try to get closer to see if they could hear what they were saying. But then it's when it took off. It like sent out some kind of radiation or steam or something, burned his stomach, and they had taken pictures of that as well. There was another lady that was in South America, same thing, but it was like they had a marking on her shoulder. Right. You also have the Allagash abductions. That was in May and August 20th, 1976. And that one, I believe, that's the one with that was, those ones, they were saying that they were also, again, up in the mountains fishing, I believe. And, oh man, I lost a train on that one. I forgot exactly what it was, but, didn't too good a notes on that one. But yeah, it was it's interesting, you find these stories where, a lot of these people, again, when they get abducted, they also do have, it's kind of, they have implants, kind of like what, what's her name was saying this earlier, it was that, these implants are another thing besides burn marks or whatever that these people might be experiencing. They've been taken out of bodies. She's correct. There's been actually some bigger ones It was one that looked like a big giant spring on the very end of it. I mean, it almost looked like a piece of machinery blew up and stuck in the guy's leg. That's what they first thought it was, but come to find out, the material, once they got it removed, like the metal was also tested, and it's some of the alloys were not from the Earth. Well, some of them, the alloys could be somewhat of what they had some stuff that was here on that you'd find on our planet, but some of them, it was off the charts. So, I mean, if you have this type of stuff happening with people all the time, I mean, I agree with man. Sometimes I miss these callers' names, but that we're man, now I lost it. Anyway, back to the.
Welcome to my life. It's all good. It's all good. Go ahead, bro.
Like you, man. It's like.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you just lose the train of thought. It's all good. So what do you think about the missing time here? What about that aspect, real quick?
Well, yeah, that's like I first started. It's either one or two things for me. It's like that it's true that the whole theory with time space when they take you out and the moving that you can move, like if you have a ship like that, or if they jump in, or actually three things, right? Like the other one was just like you and Jamie were talking about, that it was either when you put you out that you don't know where you're at, it's just kind of like you're just missing time, kind of like that. The whole drugs thing where they put you over, or they're controlling to put the mind to sleep, using some kind of telepathy. Or the third thing is that it's they're doing again, that they're doing like it's a dimensional. They're jumping dimensions, from one dimension to the other. And it's not for so much they're jumping through time, into forward. They're just into another dimension. That's why you can't see it. And like the ship, that's how fast they are. And again, if that could, if they'd only take 15 minutes there, and maybe it took 2 weeks here, or a week here, or even a couple days. Who knows? But that's more. For me, that makes more sense than jumping through time. It's you're phasing into another dimension.
Gotcha. Okay. Fantastic stuff. We got a phone call behind you waiting as well, so we're going to jump to that. I appreciate the phone call. You're welcome to stay right there, as you know, and you know what to do. Just mute up. We'll come get you in a sec. Kelly in Colorado, fantastic stuff as always. I appreciate it, my man.
All right, brother. Be right here.
Thanks a lot. 702-957-1037. We get these reports coming out. UFO sightings have left witnesses with radiation burns, brain damage, and perceived time suspension. This, of course, is from the Daily Mail, which, of course, is a tabloid. But according to interviews, a newly released Pentagon report from 2010, and this is, again, April 5th, this just all went down, this information coming out. And the thing I don't like about this is we just don't know how much we can trust, right? How much has been redacted from this, how much has not been included in these things. I don't know. Like government transparency is not my strong suit in giving them the benefit of the doubt, because especially when it comes to UFOs and things like this, because they've been dodging this for a very, very long time. But what are your thoughts regarding UFOs? This idea of perceived time suspension, or of course missing time, and what is this all about? One more time, 702-957-1037. Let's go to Jennifer in Missouri. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Go right ahead, my friend. How are you tonight?
Hey, good to hear you, Mike.
Thank you.
Great
you too.
show tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
what do you think?
I have when I was growing up, we moved all the time. I had like a personal experience, kind of. I thought it might be something. I don't know. But so we moved all the time when I was growing up. My family did, for work. And when I was about like in high school, we moved to Montana, and I like to go hiking a lot then. So I'd go, because I had never been somewhere like so majestic, Montana it's unbelievably beautiful, that part of the country, because I'd come from the South. So it was just unbelievable when I saw it. And we were outside of Gallatin Gateway region, Yellowstone National Park. And there was this particular park called Potosi Hot Springs. And it's like off the volcano in Yellowstone. There are a lot of natural hot springs. People go and they wade in them. and camp out there. Anyway, I was hiking out there, and like I say, I was probably like, I had maybe 16 or something. And I remember really clearly, it's really strange. I remember really clearly, there was like this, like the forest was all cleared out. It's not like the South where it's all really thick. There it's really cleared out. Like it's all pine trees and stuff and boulders, and it's really beautiful. But I can remember that I was hiking along and there was like this pine needle flooring, like the ground, like the ground was all pine needles and the pine trees and everything above it. And I remember just hiking along and I saw something like ahead of me. Like this is how the memory is to me. It's really strange, but like I saw something ahead of me and I was probably like maybe 50 feet away. I don't know, 40 feet away or something like that. And it looked, at first when I saw it, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. But as I got closer, I kept walking towards it. And it looked like an owl with really long legs. Like, it looked like a really tall owl. Like, it looked like an owl, and it was not facing me. It was, like, facing off to the side. And I thought, I've never seen an owl standing on the ground. And that's what it looked like. It looked like an owl standing on the ground, and I've never seen anything like that. That's what it looked like. And I thought, that's an owl just standing there. And I kept walking towards it. And as I got closer, I could see that that's what it was. That it was like an owl standing there. And I remember it was the middle of the day. It wasn't in the nighttime. It was like the middle of the day. That's what really stood out, was this owl standing there like that and how weird it looked. I've never seen anything like it. Have you ever seen an owl standing? That's what it was.
I have actually.
But
I've seen little tiny owls actually standing, because kind of, I don't know if they were hunting mice or something, but I saw little tiny owls standing in this field of all places, hilariously behind like a Taco Bell one night, and I was like, what the hell? What are they doing out there? They're just chilling. Yeah, but how big was this owl that you saw? You said with really long legs. Was this thing larger than an owl, or was it just a regular owl, size wise?
It looked big. Like I've seen barn owls when I lived in Texas. Like my papa had a farm, and there were barn owls, and they were pretty big, like as big as as big as a big cat, for example. Like they're pretty good size, and it was really big. Like it really stood out to me as being really bizarre. And here's what's really strange about it: is like the memory of it. Like I put it out of my mind, but I was telling the story to a friend of mine, like a year later. And for some weird reason, like it stood out in my memory, but I was like, I feel like maybe somebody told me that story rather than me actually seeing it, because it was so bizarre. Like something was so strange about it. And I was like, I told it first, and I was like, it was something that I experienced. And then I was like, actually, no, I think somebody told me that story. And what's really weird is like now I kind of wonder if I didn't dream it. Like, did I dream it? What I'm saying is that there was something strange about that experience. And my mind has done something funny with just that one memory, in a way, where it's not really sure, for some reason, whether I saw this owl alone out in the forest standing in a clearing, or if it was something else, or if somebody else told me the story, or if I just dreamed it. Like it's a memory I'm not certain about. And that's not I don't really have any memories like that, but that one stands out that way, where I'm actually not certain. Like a part of me wonders, like, I know I saw it. Like, I'm pretty sure that that's what I saw, was this big owl standing there, but I can't really be certain about it. And I feel like it feels like something that, thinking back, I mean, I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's just this fuzzy personal experience, where I'm not certain about it at all, about how it fits actually into my memory in a way. And then on the other hand of it as well, when you think about these beings, I think that maybe it's not that they, like, kind of like Kelly mentioned and Night Stalker has mentioned, and many other people in Flock have mentioned it, that it could be, and everyone who's calling in about this, but maybe it is the case that these beings, they themselves, like they're appearing at a moment where the dimensional veil, like the portal, because you hear about this in the paranormal field too, that there's a portal of sorts, and that they're not affected by the same dimensional things like Kelly was mentioning, that time is different or it's acting different wherever they're coming from. But it's not that they're carrying it with them, but that you're actually there too, in a way, in some kind of in-between in the dimensions. And that's why you encounter them. When you do, like because when you're in a haunted house, for example, a lot of paranormal people would say that there's a portal possibly open in the house. If that's the case, at the moment that the portal opens, perhaps the environment has like a different, it's running a little differently than usual. And you can read that with like EMF detectors and things like that. But I wonder if that has something to do with it, you know, if it's that there's a portal happening.
Yeah, so
for
it's
some
sort of
strange
like
reason, and you just happen to accidentally
kind of phase into some other spot there. And so meaning that what you're saying, and I think is what you're saying here, is that it could account for some of this missing time stuff, is what we're talking about. It may not have anything to do with UFOs at all. It may be like we were talking about a little bit last night, crossing these thresholds or something else, right? And sort of phasing maybe out of your own memory and into like Robert said in the chat over there on Rockfin. He said that your story has like a Alice in Wonderland sort of vibe to it a little bit, and I think he's right there. So does this space exist in your memory or outside of your memory? And that's the question, right? Pretty wild.
Yes, because at the time, you know, the memory of it at the time was that, yes, I saw an owl standing in the forest, you know, standing there really weird, and I was, you know, by myself, and it was standing there by itself, and it was just kind of standing there in a clearing, and it was really odd, and I wasn't doing anything, it was just standing there. But the me now looks back at that memory and isn't so sure about it, like, in a way. Like, I'm kind of sure about it, but I mean, a part of me too is like, it couldn't have been that bizarre. Yeah, kind of like he's saying, like, it's hard to, sometimes, you know, the reflection back into the memory field, it seems like maybe it didn't happen quite like that or something. There's something kind of off about it. Something feels off, like I don't have all the information or something. Because I don't remember anything else around it, just that I was really, you know, like I found it very striking to see it. But I've seen other strange things that, you know, like people see things all the time. I mean, I've seen weird animals and stuff, and I've seen bear, and I've seen things like that but this was really, it was really strange. And you never know. So maybe there is something about it that you come across certain places where there's some kind of shift happening or something. I don't know. I didn't even like to call it that. Like maybe that you happen across, and how tricky, in fact, when you're talking about the show last night and the references to the thresholds, that you don't even notice that you've allowed your subconscious, like you've been almost tricked into possibly believing something that you're seeing that you're not actually seeing, that they slip past the subconscious so easily, you know, in some way or something. Not like people do, but like that they have a really strong handle on it. And maybe a lot of these abduction stories, these beings have a very solid handle, and somehow the way that they are able to access the subconscious mind of people is almost effortless and seamless. And so to us, we believe whatever they want us to believe that we saw, because they're able to go through it much easier than we are, you know, like they're beyond it somehow or something. I don't know, but I just thought it was the reason I only mentioned it because it seemed to me that it was something that has always kind of bothered me about one of the memories that I have about strange things, and why I think it's strange. I mean, it was weird looking, but I don't know.
It's okay to not know.
Fit into this, and I thought maybe it did.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Maybe crossing these realms and whatnot. Pretty wild stuff. I appreciate you sharing the story. Thank you very much for the call, as always. Jennifer here has a YouTube channel. Check it out. Links in the description. She does troubled mindsy stuff and some other stuff. Give her some love and go follow that YouTube channel. Thank you for the phone call, Jennifer. Always a pleasure. Have a fantastic night.
You too. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot. There you go. 702-957-1037. We're talking about this idea of perceived time suspension. What does this even mean? Let's go to Phenomenal Seeker on Discord. Are you there? What's your first name? Mr. Phenomenal Seeker, I think, Mr. Test 1 2. Are you there? You jumped into the caller queue, so I'm gonna pop down here with him, or let's see, bring him back in. There we go. Just unmute yourself. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Oh, same thing. Try it again. Okay, I'm gonna jump in the caller queue with him over there. So he's having that weird problem. So if you want to jump down, catch you there. Okay, Phenomenal. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Sorry.
You cut out. What was your name again?
Sorry, my name is Brandon, and I'm calling from work. Kealakekua, Mountain Reserve, Hawaii.
Okay, sweet. Go right ahead, Brandon. What are your thoughts on this UFO stuff?
This is like one of my favorite topics really right now, the difference between the UFO and UAP discussion. So getting into it, like UFO kind of implies that it's a craft. It's also the outdated terminology because the government didn't know what it's looking at, right? And now supposedly they do know what they're looking at, and we're just not getting all the information, of course. So when we talk about UFOs and time dilation, we talk about craft and possibly alien craft of some kind that are causing this loss of time or some effect on us where we don't remember things. Or are we talking about some other phenomenon where the light orbs and spirit orbs or something else comes into our consciousness and affects us so much that we cannot remember, or we have a time dilation? I think from the previous callers, when they're talking about how people go up and they're going about their lives, and all of a sudden they're brought back to their lives and they're not wearing their clothes correctly, or they're in the wrong place, that's definitely strange, and that definitely sounds like they were taking on a craft. And if these craft are able to do the crazy things that they can do that you see in the videos, then it makes sense to me that they're able to warp time space, to be able to move around like that.
Okay, that does make some sense to me as well. You're talking about the exotic propulsion and things like this. Clearly and obviously, like I say this a lot, that it's not an efficient way, even at the speed of light, to travel the cosmos. It just takes too damn long. You would have to have some sort of way to jump, right? So some sort of some super exotic propulsion to maybe kind of hit the wormhole or actually bend space time, or who knows. So that part tracks with me, technologically speaking. Go right ahead. What else you got?
So the other thing was your previous caller, that was Jen, right? I believe she was talking about the funniness with seeing, like, with an animal. And I was hearing about stories about regression therapy, and a lot of them talk about, like, the people who remember something when they have these kind of experiences. And usually they are abductions, actually. And it's just like our mind has to somehow make sense of what happened to us. And between the time loss and whatever happens to us when we're up there, and the fact that we don't keep our memories when we come back, that our brains have to make up this really complicated thing that happened that seems very real to us, and it always seems to involve animals, and usually some kind of animal-human hybrid. And so listening to that story and just like, yeah, it's just an animal, but the way you're dealing with it is really strange. And I think and I kind of want to see some UAP or see a UFO or have something happen, because I don't know if it's just where I'm at, or like geographically that I just don't experience anything other than maybe something that's just more like a ghostly entity. Like if I'm hanging out in graveyards, I can definitely get spooked, think something's going on there. But yeah, for as far as like maybe definitely UAP or alien craft, I don't know if it's where I'm at, so I haven't got experiences with it. The only thing I can say, and it's kind of relating to the funniness with the animals and that experience, is that when I was pretty young, like 4 or 5. I remember, like, I went to bed, and when I woke up, I had this, like, dream that was so real, and I tried to talk to my mom about it, and she thought I was talking crazy, so she just dismissed it, and I dismissed it for most of my life. And I didn't really ever think about it until I heard about regression therapy and how people always talk about animals. I remember, like, in this dream, it was me and my mom, and I was an infant, and we were in the bedroom, and I was sleeping, and I barked as a baby and started crying, and it woke my mom up, and she was kind of, like, upset and trying to clean it up and stuff, and I was still crying. She was like, shh. But then me crying and all of a sudden noise and stuff spooked the entity that was actually watching us, and it ran away, and it ran under the bed, and I followed it, and what I saw coming back at me was my cat's eyes. And my cat's eyes glowing in the dark under the bed, and it really scared me. And I woke up, and I was like, well, later I thought maybe I was my cat, and my cat showed me a memory. But then thinking about it even now, it's like, no, I was floating above the room, and then the cat moved on the bed, and it's like the entity followed the cat, and the cat spooked the entity away.
That's pretty creepy. That's a creepy story. Cats as familiar spirits, huh?
Wild thing.
Yeah, that's wild. So okay, regarding this, like you said, with, I don't know, what other thoughts you got? I think you answered the question I was about to ask. What else you got for us tonight?
I think that's it, just because even though the UFO, UAP is by far my most favorite subject, it's the thing I have the least amount of experience with, and I just wanted to enter into the conversation, like, when we talk UFO, are we talking craft? Are we talking, aliens specifically? Are we talking orbs affecting time? And I think it's possible that all of us could do it, because it's a phenomenon that we don't fully understand. And like you said, it's the question show.
Amen to that. Appreciate it. Brandon, you were welcome anytime. You know where to find us. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thanks for listening. Thanks for chiming in. You're welcome to stay right there if you want to listen. Just please mute up. And we got one more phone call we'll go to, and then we'll keep on trucking, keep on doing this, and wrap this up. So let's do it. We're still talking about this missing time UFOs, this government FOIA release stuff. What do you guys believe? Again, as always, right? It's not about what I believe. It's not my reality. It's yours. So what does this mean? And missing time UFOs, all the rest of it. Let's go to. I have no idea who this is. Welcome to Troubled Minds. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Tom. I'm calling from Mexico City.
Tom in Mexico City.
Hey,
what's up?
man.
Welcome to Troubled Minds.
Yeah,
how are you tonight?
Yeah. Thank you. So, I want to share the story that I actually don't know if it's related to UFOs or not. And it's going to be a short one, because I actually missed 4 hours of the story myself. But the strange part is basically where it happened, right? I've always heard these missing time stories happening, in the middle of a road, middle of nowhere, or on a mountain, stuff like that, right? And so if you know Mexico City, we have 25 million people here. It's a huge city. It's always busy. And so it was a Saturday about 10 years ago. A friend calls me, and he was like, hey, dude, let's grab a cup of coffee, right? And so I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you in this coffee shop that's like 15 minutes from my house, right, from my apartment. So it's funny also, because I remember everything about that day, like what I was wearing. I remember just after I hung up the phone, I grabbed my jacket, I grabbed my keys. Right away, I left my apartment, went downstairs, said hi to the doorman. Got in my car. Sorry, are you going to ask something?
No, you're good. I'm listening.
Sorry. So I got in my car, and I drive off, and I get to the first red light, right? And when I get to this first red light, I stop my car, and like many times before, I start to think about my crap, right? The stuff in my head. And so I just stare at the dashboard of my car for like what felt like a few seconds, right? I was at this red light. And so I suddenly, catch out of the corner of my eye that the light is green. And at that time, I just look at my watch, and I noticed it was like 4 hours later than it was when I called my friend 15 minutes before. Right? So I said, well, maybe my watch is fucked up. I looked at the dashboard of my car. It has a watch there, and it was also showing 4 more hours. So I was like, whoa, what the hell, right? But, I thought to myself, okay, maybe you got the time wrong. Who cares? So I continued to drive to meet my friend at this coffee shop, right? And when I meet him, he's actually about to leave. And he's like, dude, where have you been? I've been calling you your cell phone, and where were you, right? And I'm like, whoa, dude, I have no missed calls on my cell phone. To me, it's been like 15 minutes that just elapsed, right? And it was the strangest of feelings. And I just talked to this friend about this stuff for hours, and we smoked a bunch of cigarettes talking about this stuff. And one of the things I said, because again, it was in a very busy street, and if I had passed out, somebody would have called an ambulance or at least done something, because I would have been blocking traffic for 4 hours. And it was right in front of a bank that has security cameras. So I thought to myself, and I told my friend, hey, I'm gonna go ask the bank for the security footage, right? But I never did it. That's one thing I will always repent on. I never did it. I had work to do, stuff to do, and I never got around to doing it. But I'm really curious what would have been shown in a camera, right? Because I was there, obviously, for 4 hours. What happened, right? And again, I never did any regressions or anything like that either. I don't think I have the time for that either. And I have seen UFOs in the past, right? And I believe in UFOs. I have seen them myself, just from afar, like not any close-up experiences or anything. But still, it feels weird, right? It's like time just folding or something happening at that time that, just vanished from existence.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Very, very much
so it's a short story.
Yeah, it's a good one. And this is what I mean. Like in many cases, people describe sort of missing time as minutes, or 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You'll get a lot of stuff like that, but straight up hours and like in the blink of an eye, that's absolutely wild. So you have any theory on what this was? Did you kind of maybe walk through some sort of let's say some dimensional slip or something, a time slip, or what's your theory here? What do you think actually happened?
Yeah, I think it might be some sort of crazy physics. I don't know, something happened. And the weirdest part for me is that I never lost a second of consciousness. I was thinking about whatever I was saying. Funny enough, I don't remember what I was thinking of at that time when I was in the car, because I was just spaced out. But I was probably thinking, I have to feed my cat, or hey, I forgot to do something. I was thinking of something stupid, but I was thinking. I was there. I never lost my cognition, and then when I saw the light turn green, that's where I sort of, I want to say woke up, but it wasn't like waking up because I was always there. But I did, the strangest part is I was spaced out. I was totally out of my body thinking of something, like those moments where you totally lose yourself. Even though it was dumb and I don't remember it, I know I was completely lost in myself in that moment. So maybe it was something my mind did, I don't know. But I just wanted to share it because I will never know what happened, and it always has compounded me. And I think sharing it just feels good.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, you're definitely in the right place for that. So let me ask you, Tom, first-time caller, where did you find Troubled Minds?
I don't know, it just popped up on my feed one day in YouTube, and I've been watching you like 4 or 5 times now, and I think the subjects you talk about are really interesting, and your format is really interesting. Like, I always wanted to call, but I never had like a chance, and when I saw tonight's title, I was like, oh, it's my time.
Right on. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the phone call. You're welcome back anytime. You know where to find us, okay? Appreciate it, my man.
Oh, will do, man. Thank you for your time as well. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. You too. That's Tom in Mexico City. Fantastic phone call there. Wild stuff. I mean, this is one of those ones, right? Your brain playing tricks on you. And what's up? Ronald says, hasn't there been a lot of UFO activity in Mexico City? I think that's the truth. I think that's, definitely tracks. So we got one more. Let's go to Smurfer Girl. Danny, welcome to Troubled Minds. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey. Well, I just wanted to say something about the earlier comments about owls in relation to the topic.
Sure.
When they were brought up, I kept seeing in my mind like a movie scene with an owl flapping outside the window, which is in a lot of movies. But this one was like specific, and I was trying to pinpoint it. I was like, God, I got to find it. So I finally realized what it was. So, okay, the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie, which I'm realizing now is totally an alien abduction movie. Because Sarah, I'm serious, man. Sarah is reading her book and she wants the Goblin King to come take her little brother away, And he's abducted from his bed with an owl watching through the window by little guys, and Jareth, the Goblin King, who is played by David Bowie, who just happens to be Ziggy Stardust, the man who fell to Earth and all that stuff.
100%.
But they're. And the Watchers thing, it ties into that too, because the owl isn't actually, doing the abduction. He's just watching. And they end up in a realm they don't want to be in. And Jareth, the whole point of the thing is like Sarah to get out of the labyrinth in time. So it's all about time too. I mean, come on.
Yeah, all right. I think that tracks. It's been so long since I've seen that movie that I'm not even getting the references because it's been.
I love that movie.
Long. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go revisit that because I believe you. So we got a situation where it's like an allegory for alien abduction. That's creepy.
I mean, you got the owl, you got the time problem, you got the being somewhere you don't want to be. There you go. They're telling you without telling you. That's what that was.
That's pretty wild. I love it. What else you got? Do you got a theory on what this perceived time suspension might be?
No. Well, I left a comment in the chat earlier. I do lose a lot of time when I see the UFOs that I'm like a UFO magnet. I don't know if you knew that, but I do lose a lot of time cussing at them and getting my camera to try to focus.
I did see that comment. I did see that. But otherwise, so it does happen, but it's just it's that time anomaly we all get with the it's like UFOs.
I would like to know though what it is.
Yeah, same.
I'm seeing there. I've even like the second time encounter that I had, and they're always in the sky, and it's during the day. They don't come it's not like a nighttime lights, and there were two the second time. The first one I saw, I knew it was something weird because it looked like a star at noon with hardly any clouds, like a bright, like Venus, like something really bright in the sky, flickering, and it's sitting there in the sky just like chilling. And like, okay, that's not normal. And I could tell like something was different. And then the second time it was, I don't know how long it was between that one and then the next ones. I had just pulled in the driveway and I saw two of them and they were moving. They were off in the distance above a cloud. It's like they always want some cover to hide behind, and they reminded me of something curious looking around, just like kind of having fun, like zooming, like just, zipping back and forth above a cloud, checking it out, not in like sync with each other, just really random. And then I just watched. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I didn't move. I just watched them. I wish I had recorded that part. I did record what happened afterwards. One of them stopped moving and it came my direction above me and it parked itself in the sky above my head. And then about like 30 seconds later, maybe a minute, it's been a few years now. The other one did the same thing and they sat next to each other above me in the sky, and I recorded them for so long. It's ridiculous. I watched them for like 10 solid minutes. Actually, I was like, I want to get a better look. So I ran in my house and got my binoculars and went outside and they were still there. So that's awesome. And I've seen them quite a few times since then, but they look like they're not metallic. They look like an energetic sort of thing. It's like well, they look like they're flickering because it's they were yellow, and it was like two, I call them like two massive tennis balls that each one is like made of two like orbs of like yellow, like a deep yellow light, and like rotating around each other. And so that kind of reminds me of like the Ezekiel's wheels thing. I wonder if there were no eyes on it though, just yellow balls.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. So definitely not craft like a nuts and bolts.
No, it was not
energy.
metallic.
Yeah.
No, and I've seen them a few times since then, just one or two. But except for the last time, there were like 50 of them, but it was only for a second. And I had been watching too for a little while, maybe 10 minutes. And I had to get in my car because I was going somewhere else. And I was actually the passenger. And I turned my head and looked because I'm trying to find the two because they move away once it's like they know you see them. They're sentient. Clearly, they know you're looking. And because they sort of interact, like their behavior indicates that they know you're watching them. And I'm still like shaken thinking about this. It's been a couple years now. I was looking all over the sky, and I was maybe a few blocks from where I was going, and I turned my head to look like kind of back behind the car, and there were just a cloud of them. At a much lower altitude than I'd ever seen, and they sort of look gray, like gray dots, like gray balloons almost. Really big, giant balloons, but they weren't moving at all, and they weren't in any pattern. It was just kind of random, like a spray, like a splatter of them, you know. And I like literally, I turn my head, I go to get my phone, I turn back, and they're gone. Like one literal second, they're just not there. Like a large number of massive, you know, opaque 3-dimensional objects just gone like that in 1 second. And so I want to know what these damn things are. I really do. I really freaking do.
Yeah, well, they seem to want to know what you are too.
I would say there's some indication that you might be true about that. It might be right about that. Yeah.
It seems like it. Yeah, it seems like if they're following you, yeah, for sure, 100%. So no theories. You don't know what they are.
No, I mean, people have given me theories. They like demons or angelic beings, or some sort of being. And the only really observation I can make that's consistent is that the sun has to be shining on them. If it's fully overcast, I don't ever see them. If it's completely sunny and no clouds whatsoever, or chemtrails tend to be common in conjunction with them. For just based on my experience, trying to like catalog what common denominators are going on there, and the chemtrail thing seems to be really common. Except for the first one, it was almost perfectly clear, except for just a couple little cotton balls, clouds in the sky. It's like kind of hanging out. And but I've never seen one on a perfectly clear day, never seen one on an overcast day, and they're always like across the sky from wherever the sun is. So it's like maybe that the ultraviolet light maybe somehow allows it to be visible if it so desires, because clearly they can just not be butt heads.
Yeah, hard to say. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
I don't know.
I don't know either. And that's the deal, right? The question show, not the answer show. If you came looking for an answer, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Oh gosh, no. I think at this point I'm realizing I'm probably not going to get one.
Me too.
Not going to bother calling MUFON either.
Yeah, exactly. What about MUFON, real quick? Have you heard of them? Do you know anything about that organization?
In passing, I've never contacted them or anything, because I'm, pretty skeptical of anything the government gets its paws on. And I think the government gets its paws on everything. If you call it a group or a club, they're probably already there. So, not going to be trusting those guys. I'm sure the people at the bottom are, genuine.
The people that answer the phones and do the spreadsheets.
Right. The people doing the work.
Yeah.
Not the ones changing things in the computer after the work's done.
Makes sense. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. I appreciate the phone call. Don't have a podcast we can talk about? You said no?
No.
Okay.
No, not now. Not at the moment.
Okay.
I think about it all the time. I should do that.
It seems like you would be very good at it. So when you decide to, let me know, and I'd be happy to help spread the word for you. Danny, thank you so much for being part of this. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the amazing phone call. You're the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. There you go. All right, let's finish this. Good stuff. This is one of those like again great. Like I always say, greater than the sum of its parts. You see what's going on here. Lots of great people with lots of great ideas and eyewitness accounts, and this is what this is all about. It's always been about just talking to people, and here we are talking to some pretty amazing people. So thank you for all the amazing phone calls tonight. Thank you for just spending your time and energy here. Thanks for all of that. Like I said, you guys make my world go around. I appreciate it very much. Let's go to James real quick, and he's been quiet the longest. If you're still there, James, are you there?
I am here. I've been in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Just real quick, and I mentioned this in the chat. Back to Tom's story from Mexico City.
Yeah.
I agree with him. It seems odd that no one would have pulled up behind him at a red light in a city. It seems odd that he could have stayed there for 4 hours without any other traffic building up behind him and basically a scene developing around him. People trying to figure out why he's not responding.
Yeah.
Or not moving.
Yeah. Almost.
So what this makes me wonder is if there was some kind of teleportation or shift in dimensions of the entire vehicle with him in it.
Yeah, because you would have to sort of stretch the time around him somehow, right? That's a pretty wild idea, but yeah, something's got to give there. When we've got the unstoppable force meets the unmovable objects sort of situation, and we're talking about a car blocking a stoplight.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, that tells me maybe that car wasn't exactly there in that same space for that whole 4 hours. To me, anyway. At least that's what it seems like. It seems like it makes me think about how so many. It seems like another connection to stories of people that people have of being on roads and places, and they see a car, and then it just vanishes, or they turn around and it's just gone. And it just makes me wonder. People think of those usually in those kind of stories you hear. But they're referred to as ghost cars, but what if it's not even ghost cars? It's just regular people. You know?
There's back to that the idea of the time slip. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Great theory. Yeah. I appreciate it, my man. James shares a podcast, Salcedo Paranormal. Check it out. Links in the description. Kelly, you still there?
Yeah, I just want to add a couple things to what was said about animals.
Sure.
I just kind of sitting here thinking about some of that stuff, and then you go back into what people in the, in history claim to see what their gods were, man with bird heads or whatever. I don't know, man. For me, when people say the owl, right? For me, maybe that they use animal figures because the human mind can't accept what they really look like. You'd probably freak the fuck out. So they have to ease the mind somehow. Again, back to telepathy, right? So maybe they're giving us the picture of something that, that we would think that kind of resembles them, which would be an owl. They got those, owls do have long legs. If people, if you lift them up, they have really long legs, their body their feathers kind of hide all their legs, but yeah, it's kind of interesting too. I pondered that for a while, that because even with a lot of those, the ancients, they always talk about sometimes that maybe they were just seeing what they want you to see, to ease, like I said. So you're not really seeing what they look like, because maybe they look to the human, maybe grotesque, scary, or whatnot, So I just wanted to add that in there.
Right on. Appreciate it. Great stuff, Kelly. As always, Kelly in Colorado. Thanks for being you. Thanks for doing you, brother. Let's go to Daryl. Daryl in New York, are you there? Test 1, 2.
Hey.
Hey, good evening.
What's up?
What's your final thought? Anything to add here before we take off?
Well, I think we have to take the people that have experienced seriously, it could be very traumatic, we have to be very sensitive to them, and take them, give them the benefit of the doubt, who would make this stuff up unless they're LARPers.
Dirty LARPers. Right on. Appreciate that. Thank you, Daryl. Daryl in New York has a YouTube channel. Check it out. Links in the description. Let's go to APOC. APOC. Let's round this out.
Hey, well, I did want to say that with the orbs coming in, with the labyrinth, the Goblin King had the orbs in his hand, and then the owls popping up in the same story. And I want to thank Smurfer Girl, or I can't remember her actual name. I want to thank her for bringing that up because it's one of my favorite movies, and it makes so much sense now. So crazy.
That's Danny. Danny is her name.
Danny, thank you so much.
You got it.
But yeah, I mean, that's a really cool connection. But I did want to say that in when I went to California, I had two very odd experiences with owls. And in California is where I saw the most UFOs that I've ever seen, just every single night. And a lot of them were orbs. And in relation to Danny's story with the orbs hovering above her head, I had me and the person I was there with had an orange orb hover right over our car for a good 20 minutes. And it was pretty close. It was, I don't know, maybe 50, 75 feet up. So, with the whole attachment to aliens with a, what is it called? A false memory, with UFOs or aliens. I think you can start connecting that in regards to so much evidence related to abduction stories and owls. And a lot of people connect other sort of false memories with that, and then they come out and make, connect the pieces and fit it all together. So it's an interesting phenomenon. The very last thing I wanted to say was about when you were talking about space-time and then the disappearing car potentially and all that. Mike, you had mentioned, and your other caller had mentioned something about the traveling through space and time, and it would be, going faster than the speed of light isn't really like going faster than the speed of light. If you are in control of space-time, then you just, decide where you're going and you go there. So there's no, if that's how it works, then there's no real time involved. You're outside of the time that is outside of your craft, and you're only within the time that is inside your craft. In regards to what I understand is possible in relationship to that. So the last thing is that space-time is called space-time because it's not really able to be separated. You move, if you move in time, you move in space. So that's one thing to consider in this. But anyway, yeah, great show. I love it. And I think you had amazing callers tonight. I think it was a great show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Great callers, yourself included. APOC here, good friend of mine, good friend of the show. Check it out. She's got a podcast called Apocalypse Tau. Links in the description. Thank you very much, APOC. Thanks to all the amazing folks who called in tonight. Thanks for all the amazing chat. Thanks for making my world go round and loving these conversations. You guys make it easy to come back every night, and I appreciate it very much. If you want to help the show, there's a number of ways. You can sub up on Patreon. You can sub up on Rockfin directly. All those links links are going to be in the description down below. You can sub up on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, there's an easy way to do that as well at no additional cost. You've already paid for your Amazon Prime account, so you can actually sub up on Twitch directly there. If you need help with that and are interested, let me know. It only kicks $2.49 my way per month, but you've already paid for it, and if you love the show, you may as well hook it up and send the money over, because, well, it's just sitting there and getting wasted otherwise. So, like I said, if you want to help the show, there are a number of ways to do it. If you don't want to spend money, spread the word. Old school word of mouth beats algorithms. Spread the word and let people know there's a conversation happening out there that doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be divisive. It doesn't have to be stupid. Even though some of the things, let's say concept-wise, well, I'll even say, I'll own it, maybe some of the stuff is stupid, but at least we're not being stupid to each other, and that's the thing that actually matters the most. And of course, if you want to help another way, listen to the podcast feed. There's Gold and Nemnar RSS feeds because we've got 4 years this weekend, 4 years of Troubled Minds, 4-year anniversary coming up, and there's a lot of episodes you probably haven't heard, and as you can tell, a lot of amazing people call in and contribute, and it's incredible. So like I said, I can't thank you guys enough. Do listen to the podcast feed if you want to help. It's monetized. It's got a minimal commercial interruption, but a few cents comes my way each time you listen to one of those. So there you go. It's some easy ways to help. If you want to help, I would appreciate that very much. And let's do it. Let's get the hell out of here. Oh, also merch store, troubledfans.com. Troubledfans.com. We got hats up. There's going to be shirts and other stuff coming as well. Troubledfans.com, which is super hilarious because it's an old joke we made a while back, and it's a joke that came to fruition. There you go. So let's get the hell out of here. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. The bad news is we're done. The good news is, God willing, we've got tomorrow. That's for Jay. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.
Ow.
That plays. All right, stream ending as soon as this music's done. Just to let you guys know. So if you got howls, you got to get them out now, or nobody will hear. There's your pack of wet chihuahuas for Jay. All right, stream ending. 3, 2, 1. See you guys tomorrow.